It begins. It's already started. You can't escape. It's the Sunday show after dark. Hello, everybody. I'm Forrest Valkai, and I'm joined today by the incredible, the kind, the generous, the handsome, the incredibly just sweet and generous and giving, the beloved by millions, Seth Andrews. How are you today, my friend?
Man, I need you to write my resume if I ever. Actually, I'm probably unhireable right now out in the rest of the world. Right, all they do is Google my name for a job reference, and they're like, "Okay, we'll call you." No, it's good to be here, Forrest. And it's funny because Forrest and I think, live about 20 minutes from each other in the same town.
About that, yeah.
So here we are logging on to a global stream, but we actually could probably drive to each other's house in just a few minutes. But it's good to be back.
One of these days, I want to do the bit one of these days where like I walk off camera and then suddenly appear behind you. Like it would be so freaking funny. It'd be so good.
I had an idea for one I thought might be kind of fun where you and I do like sports type commentary with apologetics. So, we show these guys who are explaining God and we just back to you and I, and we're like the ABC jackets going, "Oh, personal foul on the field. What'd you see, Forrest?" And we both kind of play that. I thought that might be kind of a fun bit, but I just haven't had time to set it up yet. But maybe one day.
I remember you talking to me about that. That does sound like a lot of fun. Smash that like button if you want Seth and I to add yet another project to our piles of projects right now.
I cannot keep up. I swear I am just... And I know it's all first world problems, but right now I'm writing 3 different speeches because I don't know which one I'm giving at the Florida Free Thought Conference coming up in the middle of March. And then after that there's the American Atheist Convention, a bunch of other events on the way. And so I'm like, okay, well, am I going to do this? And then the next morning I'm like, no, I'm going to talk about this. And I have no idea what the material is. And then do you go through this process for us where you start something and you're like, this is going to be amazing. And then you get into it and you're like, it's going to be good, I think. And then you get further in and go, this sucks. I'm terrible. I'm going to burn my notes. I'm going to unplug my computers. And then by the end, you have no idea what it is and you just release it into the wild. I think all creative people do that, don't they?
Yeah, I do that, and then I go through the cycles, the depression cycles, where it's like I haven't made anything in like 5 days, so I'm just like burning, and I'm excited, and I'm motivated. And I start thinking about something, I have a hard time with it, and now I'm worthless, and I'm a piece of shit, and I can't do any of this. And then I get to this point where it's like, okay, fine, god damn it, I'll make something, and I make something. I'm like, this is the best thing I've ever released, and then by the time I release, I'm like, it's good enough, it's fuck it, it's fine, it's just don't nobody watch it, okay? Just nobody watch it. And then the second it's out there, it's like that's the worst thing I've ever made. I hope that nobody ever tunes into that. I need to make something better. And I know exactly what I'm going to do. And I'm really motivated, but it takes me 5 days. I'm like, fuck it. I'm terrible. I can't do this anymore. It's awful. Like, just this guy's going to do that. You know what I mean? Wait until I'm depressed enough to make something and then make something.
Time while the switchboard populates, I will spend weeks on a meticulous project. I mean, it's highly produced. It's got the bells and whistles, the narrator, the licensed music, the special effects, and nobody watches. And then there will be some day when I just roll and rant. 300,000 views. Someone explain this to me. And
it is every time.
And how do I bottle that to maximize my... Natalie says that I work hard, but not necessarily smart. I got to figure out, maybe what the formula is. I did mention, and I'm going to throw this out, that there are a lot of free thought events coming up. And so I just finished populating my events page, which sort of lists the major events, the conferences that are happening all around the United States and up into Canada. And there are two big ones in Canada. There's one coming up in Nashville, Tennessee, Minneapolis for the American Atheist Convention, Orlando for Florida Free Thought. So if everybody, is anybody's interested, I have a real easy to navigate conference page. Just go to thethinkingatheist.com/events, and then everything's linked there. And then if you're in the area or you want to travel, these things are fun. I mean, Forrest will tell you, I mean, to get together, to connect with people, I go mostly, I mean, the speakers are great, but I go mostly just to feel like I'm with friends. And I know for
Yeah.
a lot of us, community is a big deal because we lost a lot of our community when we left our faith. And don't ever discount community. I think we all need it. So anyway, that's my pitch. If you need that
No,
as a
I love
resource.
that.
Okay.
That's really important, and I love the fact that you're talking about how you have just repopulated your, I'm sure, very professional and functional events page and all the thing. I just built one this week. I just finished building one on my website, and it's okay. But I also am doing a bunch of conventions. I'm doing a free flow with you. I'm doing Baja Con up in Sarnia. I don't know if you're doing that one again this year.
I'll be there.
Um,
I'll be there.
Yep. I also am doing the Secular Hub of Denver for their Darwin Day celebration. I'll be there. I'm going to some other damn place for some other damn thing. I've got so many. That's the convention. I've got I think 4 or 5 different conventions. I'm doing another talk for RFRX next or tomorrow actually. And so I'm starting to fill up my convention circuit for this year already, and
We
it's
don't
a
mean to
nutty
sound
thing, man.
pretentious. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But we spend so much of our time doing this to be able to get out and connect. I love doing material in front of a live audience. I love getting that ping
It's so
back and
much more fun.
everybody. And one good thing about this particular demographic that I really like, it's not, I don't always like it in the moment, but what I really like is that unlike when I was at church and we all sat back and were nodding and smiling and going, amen, amen, amen. If there's something that I got wrong or a piece of information that I missed or somebody disagrees or whatever, I will hear about it in short
Yeah.
order. I've had people shout,
Yep.
and I don't recommend this. They shout it out during the speech. That I don't recommend because it's
Yeah.
disrespectful to everybody. But I like doing stuff for a skeptical audience. And it's funny because when I do a presentation and somebody catches something I missed or just found out I was wrong, then
Mhm.
after I like weep and, sit in the corner, I can go back and check it out. Oh, shit, I was wrong, fix it. And then it's better in the next city. And then they do it again in the next. And by the time it actually
Yep.
releases to the wild, I think it's pretty much, foolproof. So, but I mean, I like the fact that, people aren't just sponging it up and nodding and smiling like bobbleheads. If you get something
Right.
wrong, just like here in the comments section, people will let you know. So,
Yeah. No, for sure. I love that. By the way, Arden, I see your message in the group chat just really quickly. Either one, I'm fine with either or both. By the by, just really quickly, if it's cool, just before we get it, because I know we got a freaking show and all these things, but just very quickly, before we do the show, just I'm very passionate and fiery about some things right now, and I just want to really quickly get a little, just a little something off of it. We are 6 days in to the Trump administration, not even a full week, 6 days in, and we already have an executive order declaring sex and gender synonymous binary at conception, completely erasing the existence of trans and intersex people. We now have ICE allowed to do raids in schools and hospitals, pulling children out of classrooms, pulling patients out of beds. We now have, I believe it was today, Trump said about Gaza that we just need to clear the place out, and all 1.5 million people there need to be removed forcibly and sent into Egypt and Jordan, the definition of ethnic cleansing. Um, we've got a lot going on in just this brief time, and I don't want to do an "I told you so" section, because if everybody that we talk to on this show were to vote for Kamala Harris the way we begged them to, it wouldn't have changed much in the grand scheme of things. I just want to point out that we get a lot of repeat callers on the show, and a lot of those repeat callers were people that we talked to over the weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks that we were doing regular shows, telling people to please freaking don't vote third party. Please don't abstain from this vote. Please don't make this the time you vote your conscience and just say both sides the same. To all of you fence riding, cowardly assholes who are telling us that both sides are the same, and that there really is no functional difference, and that this is your hard line, and that you're just going to vote for Stein on this one and really stick it to the Dems. I hope you never turn off the fucking news. You've got 3 years, 51 weeks, and 1 day left. We are not even a full week in. I hope every single fucking day you listen to the news and think about what your vote or lack of vote has done for the people of this world, the millions of people who are now exponentially worse off because of your petty conscience. I hope you never, ever turn off the news. It's a hard time.
I will say that
strongly with
my sympathy centers are numb. And I hate to say that about myself. You know, I know there are people like a lot of the people who brought the shitstorm upon us have children who had no say in the matter. And I know that this is oversimplified. This is just my id spirit, right? This is my gut, not my heart as much. But I do think, you know what? You unleash the rabid gorilla. If it comes back and you pay for it, I mean, my sympathy centers are numb. You know, so if they come after you and your citizenship and your health care and your job and your money and your 401k and your safety and all these other things, you know, because they will come for you. You're just probably last on the list. And I'm like, if that happens, that's just action, reaction, cause and effect. My sympathy centers are pretty numb. And I hate that about myself right now, Forrest. I hate that.
I think you are absolutely right. And I think it's the most important thing to say is that at the end of the day, they will come for you. They always do. They always do. You think you're safe because the leopards wouldn't eat your face. You voted for the face-eating leopards to go eat other people's faces, but they are face-eating leopards and they're going to eat your fucking face. And we just did away with federal DEI programs, and now all sorts of companies are removing their DEI programs. We just repealed a Lyndon B. Johnson era law that made it illegal to discriminate based on race, sex, and all these things for hiring. It is now legal to discriminate based on race on hiring process in this United States. And that's what you fucking voted for. Oh, and by the way, really quick, where the fuck is Jill Stein? Where's your savior? Where is she? Where'd she go? Who's she fighting for right now? What causes is she championing? Who's she raising money for? What's going on in the world right now that Jill Stein is fighting for? Is she just back in her fucking hole with all the money you gave her again? Like we fucking told you. Just want to make sure that we remind everybody on shows like this what's going on.
No, I read that the military is now. I'm sorry, I walked on you again, Forrest. Forgive me.
Please.
The problem is Forrest doesn't draw oxygen. He actually is able to speak without drawing air into his lungs, and I try to find the window. Try to find the window, but the armed forces just canceled teaching about in part of their programs, diversity programs about women in the military and the Tuskegee Airmen. And that was something that most people didn't know about when it even happened. It was only after the fact. And there were still so many who don't know who the Tuskegee Airmen were. And so now that we've come to the point where it was a celebrated part of our history, they're not going to teach it anymore. And I think, how can that be controversial? How can teaching about what happened and what that contribution was, how can that be controversial? How can it be anything but just overt racism? And so anyway,
it absolutely is.
Yeah,
because it's DEI, which is the new woke, which is the new BLM, which is, or what was the other ones? There was DEI, and there's woke, and there's affirmative action, and all these things that they throw up as words to avoid saying the N-word. You know what I'm saying? Like, because that's what they mean. And it's just, man, I'm so fucking.
Forrest,
it's not about us.
Who said whenever somebody says, "I'm not a racist, but," you can pretty much be guaranteed that whatever happens after the but is going to be racist.
Exactly. CRT. Thank you, the chat. Yes, that's what it was. CRT. Anything. It was CRT, and it was woke, and it's DEI, and these are all just substitutes for slurs. That's all it is. Thank you so much, chat. I appreciate you reminding me. And then political correct before that. Yeah, it's man. All these people. And now you've got Elon fucking Musk doing a goddamn Nazi salute on stage. And you've got these same people saying, no, you understand. It's a Roman salute. It's a Roman, so that's what they do. Bitch, are you Roman? Are we in Rome right now? Is that what's happening? Are we in fucking ancient Rome? Never mind the fact that it fucking isn't and that there's no such thing. Just let's pretend. Let's live in the fantasy world for a second that that's actually a thing. Who are the people who are real famous for doing that salute? Is it the Romans? I don't think it is. I think it's one very particular group of people that are very famous for that salute. And now you've got that on stage and you're like, yeah, but you know what? It's the historical context that matters. That's why we all have swastikas on our shirt, because it's an ancient Hindu symbol for peace, right? Because that's totally cool. It can't be co-opted by anybody. Fuck all the way off. Oh.
And then we had a right-wing meme that was being shared that showed all of the Democratic, whether it was Biden or Kamala Harris or somebody else, and they were holding their hands out, and these were screenshots. And they said, aha, double standard. You libs are just a bunch of hypocrites. Well, of course, we went back and did our due diligence, and somebody had posted, and I shared on my pages the context of those. And many were actually speaking about the need for equity and diversity, fairness, safety, kindness, compassion, all of those things. And they were just gesturing with their hands. Somebody happened to catch that frame. Boom. They dishonestly posted. It's like quote mining a gesture, right? And it wasn't even quote mining because it wasn't a quote. It was just a gesture. And I don't think there's a bottom. What's that line that says, I'm torn, Forrest, between I want to be well informed without going insane. So how do I stay informed without losing my will to get up in the morning the next day? And I struggle. Sometimes I just want to go and, I want to go play games on my phone and pet the dog and maybe live in the forest and build canoes or something for the next 4 years. And then I think, no, that's a privileged position. You need to engage. And then I go back and forth. Anyway, we're just babbling. Sorry about that.
No, that's exactly what I mean with the depression cycles, where it's like, I can't fucking do this anymore. And then I'm like, I'm laying there on the floor staring at the ceiling like, I just can't do it. I can't do it. And I'm like, yeah, but there's millions of people that watch your shit and like they care if you do it. So you need to go fucking do it. And then I get into the whole thing is like, all right, white savior asshole, shut the fuck up, lay back on the floor. I'm like, no, that is also giving into privilege to allow myself to be so disheartened. Fuck you, get on the show. And like, it's constant. It's constant.
You mentioned Elon Musk, and I mean, I used to really,
I'm sorry for
back
that.
before, until he spoke, right? I used to buy into the Tony Stark, and then he spoke, and then we realized, there's a problem. But I am just stunned. And then, we saw Richard Dawkins come out last year and say, he really loves America. Trump's cretinous, but Elon is here for all of us. And I'm like, who you're talking about? And as much as I hate to engage in this kind of thing, to go out, I try to keep these sort of public disagreements to a minimum, but I'm like, that you cannot leave this alone. And so I actually wrote a Substack saying, Dear Richard Dawkins, here's just a partial list of recent things that Elon Musk has said and done that are out and out, batshit crazy, or just awful. Boom, 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 boom. And that's out there. I can link it maybe in the chat if somebody's interested. But to watch the daily antics of Musk, and then I think, how far is that going to go? And when's the relationship there going to sour? Because Trump wants to be the only, alpha in the room, but he needs the billionaire money, and it's just insane. So anyway, you said Elon, and I thought to myself, Tesla's cool cars. Elon, not a cool guy, right? That's kind of where I fall. So
that's the damn double misery of it, isn't it? Because like, even though he didn't invent the shit, he bought the company and then drove it up by being a billionaire. He's like, and it's just, I don't know, man. It's so freaking frustrating to live in this oligarchy. Where we're still having to fight just every fucking day for the basics. It's the year of our Dark Lord 2025, and we're having to argue about the basics of how to live in a decent fucking society again. We're back to the 1930s again. Really? I can't do it, man. I'm losing my.
You just got here. And already I can see the veins on your forehead. I'm worried an aneurysm is going to end the show early.
So many veins.
Oh, okay. All right.
Forehead and all these veins.
Well, we'll pray and fast if we start to see the symptoms. We'll call down the sweet healing power of Jesus. In the meantime, I'm all yours, and I belong to the show and the switchboard. So
we have a show, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man. All right, so let's start strong by talking to Nathan, pronouns he, him, calling in from Itchy Legs, who is a theist who says the Gospels are reliable and Christianity is true. Test us, Nathan. After that 20 minutes of us getting hypey, let's see what happens. How are you today? You're on the line with Forrest and Seth.
Oh, hi. How are you guys doing today? I'm pretty good, by the way. I didn't answer you guys.
You're fine. Oh man, it's been a great start to the show, and we're hoping you, as our first caller, are going to set us off on a wonderful adventure of discussing theism and Christianity in particular. What I read on the screen is all I've got, but I'd love to hear more from you specifically, Nathan. What are you calling about today?
Yeah. I'll just do my little my little spiel real quick, and then we can get into it after that. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Why not?
All right. So like I said, I'm a Christian, so I believe that Jesus of Nazareth is the Christ of the Old Testament, the Messiah. That he is God Almighty, one of the three persons of the triune God of Scripture, and in that he came in and then tabernacled, also meant dwelt among us, as shown in John 1:14, as explained there, amongst us. And then, moreover than that, he lived the life for me and for all of us that we can never live. That is perfect, holy, claiming to be God. Died the death that I deserve, as well as everybody else that I amongst all deserve.
Hey, Nathan.
And then bodily rose again.
Nathan, I would prefer if you spoke to us instead of read to us. So take your time, take a breath.
I know. I know. I'm just because I wrote it out basically right before this because I was like, let me just make sure I have it, so it's not so you guys can hear my actual side before
I think we get the first part. You believe he is the Christ. You believe that the Bible, the New Testaments, are literally true. There is a 3-in-1 deity.
Reliable.
I got you. You're a true believer. What I'm looking for is, how do you know the Gospels are reliable? I don't need the precursor. I know you're a true believer. I'll take your word on that, okay?
Okay. Yeah. Well, I would say the reason why I believe is because, first off, like I said, I believe the Gospels are reliable. Greco-Roman biographies about Jesus' life and teaching, and are written down by eyewitnesses and eyewitness accounts. So with
who were the eyewitnesses? Hey, wait, let's just go point by point, Nathan.
Okay.
Who were the eyewitnesses specifically?
So with Matthew, he was the tax collector Matthew, a follower of Jesus, right?
How do you know this?
You have Mark, because from early attestation, at least, we can show that all the church fathers all pointed towards that, at least in all four Gospels, but I'll say in Matthew's case, that this Matthew that I'm speaking of, is the one who is the one they are attesting the Gospel of Matthew to.
But I'm sorry, who is doing the attestation? Who is the third party?
The early church fathers. The early church fathers who would have had these collections.
Which early church father? What's the collection, and who vetted the collection?
Clement of Alexandria in 200 AD. Who else is it? Ignatius against heresies in about 174 AD.
Let's say the first gospel, which I believe was Mark, was written in, I think, 79 CE. You're talking about 200
I would argue it earlier. I would argue it's earlier as written.
Fine. Let's say it was written earlier. That actually helps me whenever I say no contemporary was there to document any life or death of the apostles, disciples, Jesus Christ, witnesses to those events or supposed events. We're talking about at least 100, if not 150, 170 years had passed. That's not attestation, really. It's certainly not documentation.
I was giving the people who've written about it, but there's also people as early as Papias in early 100 AD.
100 AD, roughly.
I was going from the latest to the earliest of church fathers. You didn't let me finish with that. That's why I just said
my understanding is that we have absolutely zero original documents or firsthand accounts from the events of the Bible. So, and I think that's what Seth is driving at as well.
That would be. I mean, there's no firsthand accounts of anything of antiquity of that area, of firsthand.
Was it Tacitus? Or I know Josephus in the Antiquities was around the century mark, And even that
Yeah, it was,
little mention of Jesus was a pocket gospel that some suspected had been written in or scratched in after the fact. But
Yeah, it was a
that's
forgery.
yeah.
roughly, what, 6 decades or more after the alleged crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus Christ.
At a time when
Well, we
people
also
die
could
at
go.
40.
I would also. Well, there's also more than just would you say Josephus? But there's also shoot, what was the name? Oh yeah, there's Josephus, but
Tacitus
he
later?
was the early Jewish. You said what?
No. Forgive me. Someone in the chat had said Tacitus was later, and I very well may have gotten that wrong, and I interrupted you. I'm sorry about that. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, it might have been later. Yeah, Josephus was 90 AD. Sorry, I just looking through notes. Josephus was 90 AD, and Tacitus was between 61 and 116 AD. So you could be right and you could be wrong, but that's besides the point. You know what I mean? They're roughly around the same contemporary age. Then you have Stylus, Lucian. You have Celsius. Sorry, words are a little hard to say with these type of these older names. And some of them are Romans. So Tacitus was Roman. Lucian was a Greek. Celsius was a Greek. Josephus was a Jew. Obviously, we have the Gospels. So we have all these different accounts that Jesus, at least of Jesus and the resurrection, like of Christianity in that time period.
Well, not in that exact time period. I don't want to walk on you, Forrest. Did you want to jump in here? But
I have an entirely different line of questioning, and you are going to be better equipped for this part of it. So I'm waiting for you to be done, and then I'm going to go to a different thing.
Well, no, I mean, I think to myself, contemporary historians certainly would have seen the birth, the life, the miracles, the persecution, the arrest, crucifixion, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, and chronicled that in real time, not have it written about by people who were not there long decades after the fact. And I think my favorite example of what historians missed that the Bible says actually happened as historical fact was when Jesus was on the cross and he died and the graves of the saints opened. And then upon his resurrection,
in Matthew, right?
the saints came up and shambled through the streets of Jerusalem, essentially zombies. And no contemporary historian thought that was notable enough to actually write down in a history book. So I haven't really heard anything so far that's impressed me. Sorry, Nathan. Anything else?
No, I know. But I mean, we just started the conversation. I mean, it's kind of we are going through the first part, and then it's just. But besides the point. But you want to go back to Matthew
Nathan,
27, I believe.
If it's okay, like I'm sorry, if you have a specific thing you want to get to, I'm okay with it. But just like you said, we're only just starting the conversation. When Seth said he hasn't been impressed yet, why don't you tell us like the best thing, like the number one thing that you're like, this is the shit that gets me out of bed in the morning that I know the gospel is true because of this.
Well, okay, wait, you're saying why the Gospels are... Wait, say it one more time, sorry.
I was saying you're telling us that you believe the Gospels are true, and so far you've said, here are some historians or chroniclers or people who have said that it's true. And for, Seth knows more about this than I do, but I'm not a historian. I don't fucking do history. It's why I did biology, because and so like I don't know any of that stuff. Maybe you're right. That's why I have a completely different line of questioning for myself. But what I think is more important for right now, if you're calling in and saying the Gospels are reliable and Christianity is true, then I'd like to know like your biggest reason why, rather than giving us a sermon or like a list of people that we can't verify or fact check right now. Like, just what's the big one for you? The reason why you think we should change our minds.
Yeah. So which one do you want me to go for, the reliability of the Gospels, or do you want me to say that Christianity is true? Because that's two different things I can point toward. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I'd prefer Christianity is true, but that's not. It doesn't seem like that's what we were talking about right now, and I don't want to completely derail you if you had a different point that you were trying to make.
Well, they both, because like the Gospels being true, or at least reliable, was the wording I'd use. It sets a better foundation for Christianity being true, because if the Gospels are reliable, then we can take, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So that's
so
why
then let's stick with that. So what's the biggest reason, the best reason that you know that the Gospels are true? What is your best evidence?
That they are a true, reliable source of of that time?
Sure.
I would say we have, I believe, 24,000 pieces of manuscripts or pieces of manuscripts from the first century to the 16th century, and that is vastly greater than any other sources from that time period. It's not even comparable. I forgot the actual amount, but we can also look at and
You said between which centuries?
Said,
you said
the
between
first
which
century
centuries?
and the 16th century. First century and 16th
Okay.
century. We have over
Okay, so just to be
24,000
clear,
manuscripts
just to
and
be clear,
manuscripts.
this guy, Jesus, lived during the first century.
The
He
first
lived
century.
Yes. Presumably, I think it was like around 30 AD that he was crucified, something in there.
30, like 33, 36 AD, yeah, something like that, yeah.
Something in that area is what we're talking about. And you're saying that the best reason that you know that this happened is because of the reliability of the documents over the next 15 centuries, 1,500 years?
Well, the reliability of the Gospels, and then that will based on the reliability of the Gospels, and then over the 1,500 year period that I'm mentioning, is that we can have a almost for sure understanding of the early Gospel, like the first Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, right? We can almost know for certain what was in those documents today based on those 1,500 years, is what I'm saying.
Okay, that's fine. Here's the issue for me. I think I do. And so here's my issue with it. And tell me if this if I'm understanding properly. You're saying that we have 15 centuries of scraps of documents of either bits of the gospel, bits of the gospel, whole gospels, whatever, just scraps of paper with the word Jesus written on it. Who knows? Like it's you got a bunch of shit for these 15 centuries. Who knows what they look like? That if it's anything like the rest of archaeology, most of it's dust, some of it's potsherds, and occasionally you get a book, right? And so you've got this 15 centuries of varieties of information. And you're telling me that the sheer amount of information to you is evidence for the validity of this claim. Not whether or not the information is valid or like backed up by anything, just the sheer fucking amount of it is what I heard you say. And what gets me about that is that what bothers, I'll finish this up and you can tell me if I'm wrong. What bothers me about what it sounds like you're saying is that is number one, it's the bandwagon fallacy. A lot of people believed this for a long time. It's the argument from antiquity and argumentum ad populum. It's a lot of people believe this for a very long time, and therefore it's true. And that doesn't make any sense. And also, it's what we would expect. It's what we would expect from a religion. The fact that we are not talking about the exact same version of these gospels, that's something I don't think you'd be able to defend. We have dozens of different versions and translations and reinterpretations of these documents. I have the King James version of the Bible right next to me. It's very different than the Bibles that are taught in plain language today. So these are completely new versions, new interpretations, everything over centuries. What you're describing is the way that religion is kept in place, not the way that like historical accuracy is judged. That's the hang up I have with what you're saying so far.
So I kind of disagree with how you're portraying I almost completely full sail disagree with how you're portraying my argument.
Okay.
Basically, yeah. And no offense to you, I get that's how it could have came off, and I'm sorry if I misspoke or if I portrayed it that way.
That's why I asked.
Yeah.
I want to steel man, not strong man. So tell me where I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, that was not kind of where I was going. Like again, I wasn't saying because there's this many documents, thus the Gospels thus Jesus rose from the dead, right? I'm saying that with these documents, of knowing that these documents, the 24,000 over this period of time, and also we have Codex Vaticanus, Codex Sinaiticus from like the third and fourth century AD, like around that time, like in the 300s AD. I think it's my fourth century. I always get that messed up. So the fourth century, we have two basically whole documents of the Bible, what we would now classify as the Bible. We have full portions of that in Codex Vaticanus and Codex Sinaiticus. And again, when it comes to the gospel, especially of the gospels, we have the four gospels. Again, they might have differences in spellings. I know there's Bart Ehrman talked about there's 10,000 different or even more differences throughout all of the manuscripts, right? But in that, I would say, and he even actually said it in his debate with, I believe, James White, that out of all those differences, majority of them are scribal errors, a misspelling or a space or whatever, right? And then with that as well, in the big the big missing parts, you probably see the longer ending of Mark, the girl caught in adultery, and stuff like that. all of those missing areas would have, if you were taking them out or if they're not there, you know what I mean? If someone maybe added it later, let's say, we would not lose any major Christian doctrine.
Okay,
So with
Nathan,
that
let me
being
jump
said,
in. Nathan, I have to jump in. I can guarantee you, Bart Ehrman, who is not a believer in Christianity, he's interested in it. He is seminary trained, but he doesn't buy it. So you're invoking Ehrman, the expert, who is not a Christian, because he studied the Bible and said, it's interesting, but it's kind of bullshit. All right. And now he may believe that there was a guy named Jesus that the Jesus Christ myth was based upon, but he doesn't hold to an actual Gospels-based Jesus Christ. Let me finish. If you're going to say the Gospels contradict each other or have problems, these are more than just scribal errors. If you read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and if you read about Jesus Christ, if you would, Nathan, I'm going to finish this sentence.
No, I know, but that was not my point. We can go to that next. My point was that the Gospels that we have today represent how they were written back in the day. That's my point.
Don't know. You're going to go on there are no original manuscripts for any of the books of the Bible. What you have are documents that arrived well after the supposed events took place, written by people whose identities have never been verified. Then we've got books that have been voted into canon and revoted into other canons by fallible men with a variety of motivations. You have thousands of conflicting versions of Christianity, as witnessed in different denominations of churches all over the world, because they can't agree on the basics of their faith as rooted in the Bible that disagrees. And as I was trying to say a second ago, if you read the Gospels, and in the description of your call, you say the Gospels are reliable. If you read the Gospels, they actually overtly contradict each other. The Jesus they describe was born differently. He lived differently. He did and said different things. He died differently. He was resurrected differently. These are conflicting and contradictory accounts. The Gospels simply are not reliable. No manuscripts exist. No contemporary historian was able to or took the time to document or verify anything. There's no good reason to believe it other than, oh shit, there's a ton of copies out there. I don't hear much here, Nathan.
Well, again,
I also want to point out that, like, just that alone, if these documents can be copies of copies of copies of copies of copies, and have scribal errors and translation errors, and have politicians and kings and priests inserting their interpretation into the original text to make it say what they want it to say, and like all the things that we know for sure are true, how can you possibly call that a reliable thing? That is the exact opposite of reliability.
Well, with that, I would also, again, with the way you're describing it, I would actually disagree. You're saying to be true, and you're saying it with a lot of authority, but I actually disagree completely with your, at least your interpretation of that. Because with that, we also have to remember from early Christianity, so 33 AD. Let's just say 33 AD. Christ dies, rises from the dead. I know you guys don't believe it, but it's true. But then we go to 313 AD when what's his name? You guys probably know, Constantine decriminalized a lot of religions, including Christianity. But from that 200-something year period, Christians were not only persecuted by Jews at first, and also from Romans, but also were persecuted by Romans wholesale. Christians were taught to be, because they were picking up children who were left outside the gates of the
Forrest,
city. They said that Christians were cannibals.
I don't think you're answering.
I don't think you're answering. Nathan, if somebody believed a false faith and they were persecuted, and before that faith was made the law of the land or acceptable, somehow that faith survived and they were true believers, would that make the faith claims true? And the answer remains no.
No,
and I think
agree
20
with
minutes with you has been somewhat interesting, but we haven't made any headway. So if you have a magic bullet, now's the time.
No, I get that. Okay, whatever. We'll just go to it then, because I guess the quote-unquote magical bullet would be the resurrection of Jesus Christ then. Because I was just trying to talk about first, the reliability of the Gospels in the sense of first that we know that we have them to be true, but whatever.
How do you know that Christ was resurrected?
Where? As chronicled where? As verified where? The resurrection. How do
Okay,
we know it happened?
okay. Can I get to it then, please? Okay,
Don't do this.
give me a
Just tell
perfect.
us what
Sorry.
you think.
No, no, okay, no. I'm saying. I'm sorry. Like, I'm trying to be respectful. I really am. Sorry about that, guys.
How do you know the gospel? How do you know that Christ
Yeah,
was resurrected?
well, I would just say based on, again, the eyewitness accounts. I would say with that we can say that
Which
from
are
historical
written
data.
where?
Okay,
What eyewitness
I
accounts?
I know. I would say one in the Gospels, but then also attested to. These claims that I'm going to say are going to be attested to by um, the other people as well, which is Josephus, non-believer,
So
and then
just to
Clement,
be
and
clear, which came
yes,
first? Was it the Gospels or Josephus and all them?
the Gospels came first,
Right. And in the
and then
Gospels, you go through Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and you have to ask yourself, was Jesus already resurrected when the eyewitnesses got there or not? Because the Gospels disagree. Was the stone already
no,
moved
they
when the
actually
people
don't.
got there or not? Because the Gospels disagree. Was there an
They don't
angel
disagree.
sitting on the stone or standing next to the stone or standing behind the witnesses? Was there one angel or two? Were they wearing bright clothes or not? Did Jesus ascend into the sky before or after he
You're
said whatever he said? Was there a bunch of women there that reported it and nobody actually, or was it actually there's a bunch of people there at the same time? Like, the Gospels are internally inconsistent about that event as well, which is the opposite of reliability.
I actually disagree with all those things you just made. Because I would just point to the fact of if me and you both
Okay,
saw a murder, right? No, I know. Can I explain? Because I disagree with your stance on it. Because I can just show you. Even you said,
you
but besides
disagree
that,
that the Gospels
we'll
are
go.
inconsistent about the details of the
Yes,
resurrection.
yes,
Okay, then
I
go
disagree
read
with
them
that.
and come back to me
I
because
I will. I have read them, and again, they are not inconsistent. You want to go to your point about the angel being one or two? That's actually not even a point in the Gospels. It says the angel said. It didn't say that there's only one angel there, and then they said there's two. It just mentions one angel. Just like if me and you both saw a murder, and you said, oh, he was wearing a red shirt and a blue baseball cap, right? And he shot the guy. And then I said he was a white guy and he shot the guy. Both of those things are not contradicting each other, even though they're different. You know what I
That
mean?
doesn't cover the
and
witnesses. We saw the stone rolled away, right? In one
No,
account, it was,
no,
I
okay.
think, Mary, and the other, then it was Salome, and then there were four.
Well,
I
we
mean,
would
there
have to
are
go.
simply different accounts. Nathan, I'm not going to
I mean,
spend any more
I
time with you.
completely
You are
disagree.
essentially
I
telling me
completely
that the
disagree.
text of the Bible is not what it
Because
is. And by
no,
saying
it
I
is.
disagree with you on that point, doesn't change the text of the Bible in all the mainstream translations, from KJV to American Standard to NIV, etc. These are the translations that are the foundational books of all of modern Christianity for 2 billion people to some degree. And so I find your position unimpressive. I myself feel like we're wasting everybody's time unless Forrest has
yeah,
something else.
I
I'm
I
good to
have
move
one
on.
thing. Yeah, I have one thing really quickly. This is uh there just I just want to read this paragraph here. I should stress that some of these discrepancies between the gospels can scarcely be reconciled unless you want to do a lot of imaginative interpretive gymnastics of the kind that fundamentalists love to do when reading the text, like we just saw. For example, what does one do with the fact that the women apparently meet different persons at the tomb? In Mark, it's one man. In Luke, it's two men. And in Matthew, it's one angel. The way this discrepancy is sometimes reconciled by readers who can't believe there could be a genuine discrepancy in the text is by saying that the women actually met two angels at the tomb. Matthew mentions only one of them, but never denies there being a second one. Moreover, the angels were in human disguise, so Luke claims they were actually just two men. Mark also mistakes the angels as men, but only mentions one of them, not two of them, also denying that there were two. Without denying that there were two. And so the problem is easily solved, but it is solved in a very curious way indeed. The solution is saying, in effect, that what really happened is what is not narrated by any of the Gospels. For one of them mentions two angels. For none of them actually mention two angels, pardon me. This way of interpreting the text does so by writing a new text that is unlike any of the others, so as to reconcile them to one another. I'm reading this far away from my face, and I also can't read. I'm very stupid.
It's okay.
You are certainly free to write your own gospel if that's what you want to do, but I wonder if it's the best way to interpret the gospels that you already have. And I read that particular paragraph, Nathan, because that is from Bart Ehrman. That is his paragraph on his blog, talking about exactly this. The guy that you brought up earlier as being this authority is the first to tell you that these gospels are internally inconsistent, and the only way to make them make sense is to do what you just did and say, yeah, but they technically didn't say it wasn't that, therefore it was. And that is not reliability. That is not historical accuracy. That is faith. And that's something that I have a major problem with, Nathan, because you can't just say that this isn't written down, therefore I know it happened. That doesn't make any sense for me. I had a whole bunch of other questions. I'll be candid while we've got Nathan here, but he's on mute because he was interrupting quite a bit here at the
Sorry,
end.
I took the initiative there. I was having a hard
no,
time being heard, so I thought I would
it's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
You get to be the asshole now today. I did have other questions about if these gospels are true, what kind of God is this? Because the Bible, cover to cover, is a pro-slavery book. The Bible is very clearly pro-genocide. The Bible is very clearly pro-sex slavery. The Bible allows for child marriage. The Bible allows for all sorts of injustice of every different flavor. The Bible, the God of the Bible, is a monster in almost every single time that he is mentioned, in the Old and the New Testament. And I know that the common comeback to that is, well, you don't understand because Jesus is the New Testament. But Jesus is supposed to be God in the flesh. And Jesus says, I come not to change the law, but to fulfill it. And that not a jot or tittle of the old law shall change until all things come to pass. Jesus is clearly this same guy, or it believes in this same guy. So if this God is real, I'm not a fan. And even if you can tell me this Bible is internally consistent, which it isn't, or historically consistent, which it isn't, I certainly wouldn't want anything to do with this God. Those are all things I wanted to touch on. Seth, do you care to try to have that conversation with Nathan, or do you want to move on?
No, I'm good. I'm good. I feel like that we're on a hamster wheel. I feel like he's talking at us, not speaking to us. I feel like I'm listening to a recited script, and I feel like this is he's sending but not receiving. It is interesting, though, when we go through and kind of play Where's Waldo in the Bible, or contradictions about specific stories. If you look at the major denominations, especially in the United States, Southern Baptist Convention, the Assemblies of God, etc., and you get their take on the Bible, they will use the word inerrant. Bible is perfect. It is God's inerrant word. And yeah, when you go through it, you find a ton of errors. The obvious one, obviously, the first and second chapters of Genesis. The order of creation is contradictory. Things happen in a certain order in chapter 1. And then things happen. I mean, the creation of Eve happens in a whole different place from chapter to chapter. There is Jesus healing, was it the centurion in the New Testament? In one version of the story, somebody came and mentioned to Jesus, hey, come back to the centurion's house. He's my master. I'm his servant. And then another version, it was the centurion himself. You've got 4 versions you mentioned of the conflicting versions of the empty tomb. All kinds of differences in what Jesus said on the cross when he was, being crucified. And it's actually a fascinating exploration into human massaging of the story and, the tone deafness to whatever else was going on in the adjacent gospels, or maybe they wanted to make it better. Maybe they were trying to assert themselves by sort of saying the other gospels are irrelevant. It's a very human thing going on in the writing of the Bible. It is anything but inerrant, but you can't invoke the Bible to prove the Bible. So I think I'm good. I think I'm good to move on.
My favorite is in 2 Samuel. How did Saul die? Because in 1 Samuel 31, he kills himself. In 2 Samuel 1, the Amalekites kill him. Then in 2 Samuel 21, the Philistines killed him. Then in 1 Chronicles 10, God killed him. And so, like, out of this mother, he died 4 fucking times. He had a terrible time. Terrible life. It was
it's like the fig tree. Right? Jesus comes and there were no figs. And he says, I curse thee. And in one version of the one gospel, the fig tree withers immediately. But in the other version, in a different gospel, they show up the next morning to discover that the fig tree had withered. This shit's all over the Bible. But when I was in the faith, we were never trained to look for it. We never read the Gospels. We never read Bible books and Bible stories side by side. We always read it in a linear way and kind of had our blinders on so that we would miss, conveniently miss a lot of these problems. But they are rampant. And so the idea that this is a credible book to quote from, I don't buy that, Nathan. But thanks for calling.
It's for me as a scientist, we look at, you draw up a model and you see if that model conforms to reality. And so like that's for me, this thing, you're presenting this model that the Bible is true. The Bible is reliable. The Bible is, unerrant. It's telling this true story about this guy. And you hold that model up to reality. Does that make sense? It just doesn't. But if you hold up the model of this is a book of folklore and different stories that were cobbled together by people with agendas and mistranslated and misinterpreted and retranslated and reinterpreted over and over and over again for 20 centuries, all of a sudden it makes it actually fits perfectly. That model works. It is exactly what you'd expect. If I were to tell you I have a text from the Iron Age that is all these stories about creation and about morality and about different laws of what you can eat and who you can have sex with and what you can wear and all this cultural manual, this really fucked up ethnography of ancient Palestine. That's what we've got here. And it's just been passed down and hardline believed by millions of people. If I told you that's what I was giving you, you would expect it to look exactly like the Bible. But like, if you're going to come at me from the other end and say, no, this is true because it's true, it's not going to work. Nathan, you've been a trooper hanging out on the line while we've been saying all this. Really quickly, I'm going to unmute you for just a second because you've been very, very cool listening to us this whole time. Just very quickly before we move on, did anything that Seth and I just monologue about resonate with you at all? That's all I want to know.
I mean, it definitely resonates. So I see your guys' heart of why you're believing these things and why you're, and I've heard these things before, and I definitely understand where you could come to some of those conclusions. I disagree with some of your points, like the pro-slavery, in the way you're presenting it. But we're not going to get into that, that is just what I just disagree with. But there's a lot of other stuff. You guys did a lot of monologuing with a lot of stuff that I could point at, but that'll take like a day.
I just wanted to ask if it would resonate with you. That's all. So Nathan, call back another time and we'll try to pick another one thing to talk about. And we'll move on from there. I just want to know if any of that resonated with you in any way.
Yeah, I'll definitely, realistically, that's why I wanted to kind of be on one point and try to go through that one point.
Sure.
And that's why I was
next time Seth and I are on together, especially. We'll see how far we can go. Talk to you later, Nathan.
Yeah, but I hope you have a
blessed day.
Yeah.
It's fun, Forrest, is to get like 50 experts in a room and ask them the basics about their religion. You just ask them the basics. Was it a literal 6-day creation or were the days like millions of years? Do you get the Holy Spirit when you accept Jesus Christ as your Savior, or is that a separate prayer? Do you believe speaking in tongues was only for the Old Testament times, or is it relevant for today? How do you baptize? Do you do it at birth? Do you do it at the age of accountability? Is it water? Is it oil? Do you dab? Do you immerse? What are the nature of miracles today? Baptism, all of there are so many different aspects. If you get saved, do you have eternal security or can you lose salvation? Does hell really exist? Is it hellfire? Is it the grave, annihilation? Does everybody go to heaven? What's heaven look like? I mean, you can just go and ask people the basics of their faith. Lock the believers in a room and it's freaking Thunderdome because even they don't agree on the basics. And so I find it interesting that the God who is not the author of confusion can't even get the experts to line up on the fundamentals of their fundamental faith. Anyway.
Yeah. That's the biggest thing for me, really, is that it's if this really is supposed to be the guidebook for our souls, and this guy can't lock down a solid translation, can't write it himself, can't make it something that isn't going to get messed up over centuries, knows everything that's going to happen, knows how far people are going to be led astray. There's over 40,000 denominations of Christianity alone. That doesn't make any sense if this guy is really the smartest being in the entire universe and he can't write a damn book that makes sense and is going to last for more than one time. The second time somebody reads the damn thing, it's a different story. So just, I don't know, man. It's just not convincing to me. It's not good enough. But that also, incidentally, is why we have such a problem recognizing trolls on this show. Because when we have somebody call in and they say some like genuinely just wackadoodle shit, I've heard people say that shit in earnest. And so it's like, I don't know. Are you fucking with me or not? I have to act like you're serious for at least 10 minutes. That's all I can do. It's difficile. We've got a ton of other calls on the line. Do you see any particular that are speaking to you? Because I'm looking at line number 6 there. And I'm thinking
Go for it. I'm good.
Cool. We're going to talk to Dan from Pulsating Anus. Pronouns he, him. Says he is happy to lead us to Christianity. Let's talk about it. Dan, you're on the line with Forrest and Seth. How you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. How you doing, man?
Never had a bad day.
Yeah. Oh, left. Good. Yeah, I saw your I just hopped in when you were talking to Nathan and stuff. Yeah.
Is there a destination that we can be reaching at this moment? What is it you would like to say?
What's going on? You want to lead us to Christianity. How are you going to do it?
Yeah, I listened to you talking to Nathan and stuff. You were getting some shit wrong. He was getting shit wrong as well. Like for me, I'm into the theology and shit. I know the Bible's not exactly 100% right on everything, and he was acting like it's fucking infallible,
cool.
meaning everything's right and shit. Yeah,
he's
That's
not
fine.
real.
This is a different call. So, do you have a thing you want to say about Christianity and why we should believe in the sky monster that condones slavery and rape?
He doesn't condone slavery and rape. Have you actually read the fucking Bible?
Yes. Have you?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, so then you can know that in like Leviticus and in Exodus, he very clearly tells people how to buy slaves, how to beat slaves, how to sell slaves, to pass slaves down to your children as property. Also, there's that part where he talks about wiping out an entire civilization, but keeping all the virgin girls for yourselves. Also, he raped Mary. So, like, yeah, there's definitely a pro-slavery book, just cover to cover, and the God of the Bible is down with child sex slaves and also is a rapist himself.
Not that Dan is actually listening, because I have a high suspicion he's not a real sincere call. I narrated for a Syriologist, Dr. Joshua Bowen. I narrated the audiobook. Did the Old Testament endorse slavery? It's nearly 500 pages documenting how and why. When you go back as early as you can, based on the cultures in which the scriptures were written, yes, Old Testament slavery and even New Testament slavery was real, and it did happen. Okay?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. We realize too, I'm not condoning it, but I'm saying at the time and shit. And even Christ says himself, no one's above each other. The slave is not above the master. Master not the slave.
Why didn't he just say don't have slaves?
You realize you just told us that Jesus was using slavery analogies.
Jesus Christ, pro-slavery.
Dan's a troll, right? Is he a troll?
Almost certainly, but like it's hard.
I don't know if my troll radar is good or if
it's hard to tell because people say this shit.
Well, I mean, when he says the fucking Bible, it's usually not something I hear from like an armchair apologist. So I don't. I mean, it might be a better title, the fucking Bible now on sale at Hobby Lobby, but yeah.
It's weird. It's real weird.
I just want to take, I want to be able to read minds and say, were you legit, or were you just wanting to hear the sound of your voice as you stirred the pot? And it's tough. It's tough. Right. And sometimes I'll air that kind of thing. I'll leave it in to a final release if there's some use out of it, or if it's somehow entertaining or compelling. I really, if it serves the show. But sadly, a lot of people, I think, are just desperate for attention. I don't know if that's the case, but I got those vibes. So
yeah, it's tricky. And that's exactly what I think. The same thing is. It's somebody actually believes this shit, and somebody needs to hear the response. And so I feel we got the usefulness that we could have gotten out of that call. But now we've got something entirely different. we've got I'm gonna read exactly what it says. All right, this is what the thing says. Phil, pronouns he him, calling in from the USA. Now that immediately could be nothing. It's usually a red flag when people put USA instead of a state, but it could be whatever. Phil's an agnostic, and this is what the call screen actually says. If you were to ask him if God exists, he would ask you if you exist. The earth is a portal. Who is him in this sentence? Who's him? What do you mean the earth is a portal? Portal. So many first of alls. Let's see what happens. I'm just going to hit talk and see what the hell goes on. Phil, you're on the line with Forrest and Seth. How are you doing today?
Hi, how's it going?
It's going well. What is any of what your call screen here says? What is any of that?
Any of what? I'm sorry. What was any of what?
What is the point
So
that you would like to make with your call? We weren't understanding the description in the screen, so what would you like to tell us?
Okay. I just think the people's representation or idea of what they think God is or has been at some point tainted. We are all part of the same consciousness.
Okay.
What I mean by earth is a portal is you see there's teachings in the Bible and there's teachings elsewhere that give you hints of reality along with it's like grains of salt or something. Okay. Okay, so there's the gods never ate flesh, okay, because in order to get to the flesh, you have to first go through the crust or the skin of whatever it is that you're approaching in order to achieve. Now, this is kind of metaphorical.
What?
Obviously, I'm not talking about literal flesh. Okay,
what are we talking? Well, I don't know what we are talking about. You said that everything shares a collective consciousness. How do you know that? And then you're talking about the gods never ate flesh.
Okay, well,
how do you
if
know
someone
the
were
gods
to murder
existed,
you, would you
and
remember
what are
it?
gods? What?
If someone were to murder you, would you remember it? You see, the problem with fear is it threatens you with everything, and fear is also part of everything. And so it seems kind of
collective. You said we have a collective consciousness. What is that,
correct.
And how do you know we have it?
Well, if our observation of cause and effect render both indistinguishable, then you and I have no idea what the F we're talking about. So this conversation is completely redundant, and so is everything else.
That's not reasonable at all, and that's just like some deep philosophy bro shit that doesn't really get us anywhere meaningful in reality. I'm asking you, what is a collective consciousness? What do you mean by that? That's a truth statement you made. If it's metaphorical, let me know. Like talking about crust and flesh and stuff. If it's a metaphor, just let me know so I don't get hung up on it.
I'm sorry. What was that? The last part there? It got kind of quiet.
You're talking about gods eating flesh, and then you said it's not really flesh, and there's crust, and it's all meaning it's a metaphor and all this. I don't know what you believe or why you believe it, and we've been on the phone for 3 minutes. So I'm asking you, what do you mean by collective consciousness?
So
is that a literal thing or a metaphorical thing?
You have. Well, it's both, and this is kind of where the problem gets kind of complicated in the idea of religion.
Okay, let's uncomplicate it. Let's uncomplicate it. Is there a god or gods that actually literally exist?
Yes. Do you?
Okay.
The answer is yes.
How do you know?
And that is you.
How? Okay, so you think that I am gods or that all people are gods?
When you are blending yourself with another, then yes, you are God. When you are attaching yourself to material possessions,
are you talking about sex, or are you talking about ownership, or what are you talking about when we say blending?
Okay, well, we're talking about empathy. We're talking about all right. Well,
so just from where we're at, Phil, this is what I've got. is that when you empathize with someone, that is blending yourself to them, and then you become several gods. That's what you just said.
Because that's not what no, you don't become several gods. You become a repetition of yourself.
It's bizarre to me
in
that's the thing you picked
in
up
the
on.
image
I
of
thought
what
I was
you are
strawmanning
desiring.
you, and you went with it and like, no, it's actually different. It's weirder than that. Phil, I don't understand anything you're saying, and I'll be honest with you, I don't think you do either, because like I need you to understand that if you knew what you were talking about, you would be able to succinctly just give me the elevator pitch here. I'm going to give you one last chance. What is a god, and why do you believe in one?
A god is your higher self, and I believe in one because we are all part of the same reflective, introspective reality.
How do you know that God is your
that,
higher self? And also, what does higher self mean? Let's start with that one. What does higher self mean?
Okay. So you're gonna okay. Let me ask you. How do you know I'm going to die?
I would just like you to answer my question. What does higher self mean?
Higher self means not limiting yourself to the ideas that came before you. Okay, so you have, if someone were to threaten you with your life, okay, this is what I was saying earlier. Okay, the problem with fear is it threatens you with everything. Without you, nothing exists. Do you see what I'm saying now? So consciousness,
No.
you right now, okay, right now, you exist, correct? So does the past, and so does the future, because you are supporting it, correct? You are living in the present, correct?
How does this get us to a higher self or a god? Don't ask me questions. Just tell me what you believe.
Because okay, we are not supposed to be
fast.
Listen. Okay, we're not supposed to be accumulating material wealth, possessions, and worrying about that. Okay, we are not supposed to be dying to live. We are supposed to be taking what okay, it's like critical thinking, okay, and reasoning, logic, all that. Okay, you take what you know
Phil,
and you break it down completely, and then
Phil, I'm done with it. Like, Seth, do you care?
Nope, I'm good.
Yeah, Phil, dude,
okay.
Like, you cannot finish a complete sentence without trailing off into some other crazy thing. We've gone to fear and
neither
consciousness
can
and
you.
the past.
That's my point. Neither can you, and neither can anyone else, because we don't know what the fuck.
I'm just gonna mute you now because it's not real. I teach for a living, Phil. If somebody asks me if I believe in a thing and how I believe it and why I believe in it, I just tell them, and it's like literally not a single complete sentence.
Walking like that guy who walked down the airport, and there was the dude handing out the flowers, going, hi, we represent the Church of Lunar Consciousness. Would you like to make a donation? I kind of feel like maybe I've had that encounter before. I don't know. I got the vibe of we're all part of the same consciousness, connected through, the universe. Maybe there was a spiritual component, but it was just mostly a series of non sequiturs and disconnected statements. And I was hoping we would hear something we could sink our teeth into. Sadly, it was not to be the case. So I'm ready to move on.
We've already moved on. He's hung up a minute ago because he wasn't getting to ramble anymore. Yeah. I tell you, I've been in touch with my higher self a few times. I've done a few, but I've never been as higher self as Phil was in that call. We've got other callers though, and that's pretty cool. Let's talk to Anna, who's been on the line for a long time. Anna's a theist, pronouns she, her, calling in from Nerdy Yaks. Just big, hairy guys with big, thick glasses. You know what I'm talking about? Who wants to ask how we think belief is formed. That's a very interesting question. Anna, you're on the line with Forrest and Seth. How you doing today?
Hello. Hi, Forrest and Seth. Thank you so much for taking my call. I don't know if you remember me, Seth. I called. You were the first person I spoke to on the line. It was you and Matt, and it was like months ago. I was so happy to see that you're on tonight because I wanted to thank you for that call. You were so gracious and gentle with me and gave me much to think about that has been hugely helpful. And I'm partly calling to follow up on some of that. So, like the how is belief formed is kind of the broad topic. I've called a few times, and it's something I'm really struggling with. So I think it says I'm a theist, and if I'm honest, I probably am still a theist. But I'm really struggling with that question, how belief is formed, because I'm very knowledgeable. I've read everything there is to read on this subject, I feel, and yet I find myself coming back to I'm still a believer, and I don't understand why. Like logically, all the things you've even said leading up to this in this call tonight, I can't disagree. Like the Bible is horrible. Like I've read it, and all the things you said, like the God of the Old Testament is a monster, and slavery is evil, and even the concept of hell, that we even have that as an idea, is so repulsive to me. And yet, I find myself praying when my little cat is sick and I can't help her. Why? Can you help me understand this?
Well, I'm not a professional in the field. I'm a frontline activist who came out of the faith. So, I mean, I've had many of these conversations. I will give you this encouragement. I guarantee you haven't read everything out there that
Okay.
relates to belief. There's a lot of good stuff out there, and I think we're all discovering those things from day to day. But even you, I think, are already ahead of yourself. You know, logically, this doesn't wash. But in your heart, emotionally, you feel fed and comforted by the idea of a higher power, of reaching out. And this, I think, explains a lot of the reasons that many people who may not know anything about theology still embrace the idea of a God and a
Okay.
heaven and a master plan, and everything happens for a reason, or maybe someone out there is in control. And I think we have to have compassion for those people, because it's a crazy, chaotic, and often painful world to live in, right, Anna? And so there's comfort
Yeah.
when your cat is not feeling well and you love this a member of the family, and you close
Yeah.
your eyes and you're expressing something. I think it releases endorphins in the body, which maybe helps to balm some of the pain. Maybe if someone is out there, they are listening. And that's a feeling, I think, that's rooted more in your heart, when logically, it may not be true. And I think the start to that is that you already know. Right? Logically, it doesn't wash. I'm probably operating here emotionally. I'm making kind of a hard thing, but it doesn't mean any of it's true. I don't want this to sound demeaning at all, because I don't mean it that way. But we as human beings are really good at self-medicating, right? We're meaning makers,
Right.
and we do things, ritualized things in many cases, that bring us comfort, that balm us when shit goes down and things are awful. And I sense that's a lot of what you are doing. You feel comfort in the reaching out, or in the bowing down, in the whispering the prayer, into going through those types of motions. Would that be accurate?
I think so. And I've thought that, because I don't want to believe in something that I logically know is not true. And I'm not like the Pascal's wager sort. I want
Gotcha.
I want my life to be based on reality. And yet I keep coming back to the same thought patterns. And I wonder, I don't believe I'm indoctrinated. A lot of people are raised in a religion. And, if you're brought into this, at age 4 or something, that wasn't me. My parents didn't indoctrinate me. My mother was pretty much an atheist who kind of just went along with my father's light Christianity, and he was not hardcore. And the moment we kids were old enough to have any kind of opinion on the subject, we didn't have to go to church. If we didn't want to go to church, they were very accepting of whatever we wanted to believe. So I formed my own religious beliefs kind of a little bit on my own. So it's not that. And I'm trying to figure out, like, why do I still keep coming back to this? And is it possible, and perhaps this is the most irrational thing in the world that I'm about to say, is it possible that God wants me to believe this? And that's why, despite all of my understanding and all of my research, I keep coming back to it. And you had mentioned a book called The Illusion of God's Presence by John Wathy, and that was hugely helpful too. But I don't know. I still feel like maybe there is more to it. When we look at our own personal epistemological frameworks of how do we come to believe things, is there not something to feeling? Is it possible that should be given some credibility, and it's more than just, it's more than just like the equivalent of eating a bag of cookies because you're feeling depressed, because it gives you something to feel,
Well, if I may, a lot of people who are, especially those who come out of the faith, like to say, well, I'm now committing to be a logical creature and I'm not going to be manipulated emotionally and whatnot. And they, I think, try to be Vulcans. They try to divorce themselves from the emotional part of the human experience, which is, first of all, impossible. Secondly, it's a cheat. I think we just have to understand the nature of emotion and make sure that emotion's not leading us around by the nose. But it's appropriate and necessary to feel things about the things we think about. This is part of the human experience. And I think if you have a feeling, that might be a first step into a conversation you may not have had, or an idea you may not have entertained, or a claim you haven't vetted. A feeling being a first step to you going to find out if it's true or not is totally fine.
Mhm.
I don't apologize for being a feeling creature, but I think we have to understand that almost every ideology, political party, religion, belief system, cults, truth claim, whatever, that is made in that context plays to feelings. And we as feeling
Right.
creatures can be easily manipulated and led around. And so we have to will ourselves out of simply going with our gut only. And we have to say, well, what's here beyond the feeling? But feelings are part of it. So, make
Right.
it part of your journey, but don't cheat the logical brain. The hard answers, they may feel bad, but they're still true things. And when you talk about belief, and I don't mean to lock Forrest out of this exchange, but I want to take another
Yeah.
minute with you. When you say you believe, is it there's something out there, or there's someone, or do you have a specific God in mind?
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I had been talking with Matt, and I kind of approached that subject, and he gave me a lot to think about, and I've been thinking about it, and I haven't been able to really fully answer it. So he asked me, what God do you choose? And I said, well, what if I don't choose one of the gods on offer? And he said, but you can't. It's the equivalent of trying to play the lottery without picking any numbers. And I thought so much about that, and thought about well, how did any of these religions come about in the first place? Somebody had an idea that made sense to them and made sense in the context of the world they were living in and in the culture they were living in, and it answered questions for them, and it resonated in some way. So why do we have to be locked into these old ways? There is a lot that science hasn't proven. There are still question marks around things. And I don't mean to go off into woo-woo spirituality land where I believe the universe is conscious or some nonsense like that, but it is possible that there is something, a force, a consciousness, something that created all of this. And I don't necessarily know that means it's a benevolent God who's watching over us and loves us, because I don't see evidence of that. But I can't just write it off either. And as I keep finding myself compelled to these old ways of thinking, I wonder if maybe I need to give some weight to that. I don't.
Look,
so to answer your question, I don't know.
I don't hear. There's nothing that you have just said that sounds in any way unreasonable. There's so much we don't know. We don't know what caused the singularity. Was it an intelligent? I mean, we don't have evidence for that, so I don't lean into that. But we certainly have to keep our minds open enough, and we have to be able to approach what we learn honestly and admit what we do not know. And I don't see anything. I just haven't heard any red flags. And I think you're a lot further along in your journey than you give yourself credit for. And I think you might be punishing yourself because you haven't landed on the definitive answer, right? You're like, what if?
Maybe.
I don't know, maybe. And we hate blanks in the sentence. And so we tend to want to fill them. Even when we don't know what to fill them, there may not be anything to fill them with, but I sense you ache to fill that blank. But the reality might be that you're like the rest of us. I haven't seen any evidence to believe it. I understand that religions and belief in another out there might give comfort. I know sometimes that's irrational, but I'm a human being. I'm going to keep my eyes open. I mean, all of this honestly sounds innocuous, and it might even be a healthy way to approach your day to day. And in that way, if you find evidence for a higher power, a first cause, a deity, I don't know, an agent out there, then you can call us and say, holy shit, guys, look what I discovered. Let's talk about that. So, Anna, what I want to leave you with is, I think you're doing fine. And if it gives you comfort to pray over your cat, I'm not threatened by that. It doesn't bother me. Honestly, Anna, my fight in this world with religion is more about theistic claims and health threats and anti-science stuff. It's about the Christian nationalists who are trying to create Gilead. It's about the people stripping rights away from other. It's my fight is over here with all that. Is someone bowing their head and saying, please heal my cat? I'm not threatened by that. That is not my fight. And if it feeds you in that moment, even if it's not irrational, I can have compassion enough to understand why you did it. And just keep your eyes and mind open as to why you're doing it. And I think that might be part of your journey forward. Does any of that make sense, Anna?
That makes so much sense. And thank you so much. I think I've been feeling kind of tortured because I don't want to, there are some kind of repellent things in religion. And
Anna, you're not omnipotent. You're not omniscient. You don't know everything. Nobody knows everything. We're all doing the best we can. And if there are blanks, we're just going to have to live with it. But we also keep our senses primed to try to fill them if we ever can. So, hey, it's an imperfect but beautiful existence. Enjoy it. I think you're doing just fine, okay?
Thank you. So, am I a theist?
I have a couple of things.
Okay. Thank
that's up for you. No, that's okay. To answer your question, that's up to you to decide. I can't tell you that. But just really quickly, if it's okay. Just after listening to this whole thing, I have like a whiteboard full of notes here, and there's a couple of things that I just wanted to tack on, and a lot of it's going to be parroting what Seth said, but just a slightly different perspective that I think might be useful to you. We have this thing called terror management theory. It's one of the ways we explain where big beliefs come from, either supernatural beliefs, conspiratorial beliefs, whatever like this. And basically the idea is that the most terrifying, crazy, ridiculous, over-the-top, evil belief that there's not just any God, it's the most vindictive, terrible God you've ever heard of. There's a big government full of lizard people from another dimension that are pulling the strings and keeping us oppressed, and like no matter what belief it is, some crazy belief about what's actually in control of everything is a lot less scary than thinking about the universe as being unguided, and thinking about the fact that we're in this alone and there's nobody at the levers. There are no levers. And when you die, you die, and that's it. And that's way, way, way scarier than anything else. And so having that as the basis of belief and where beliefs like these come from kind of answers a lot, to me anyway, about where we get behaviors like yours, the ones that you're expressing right now, where you're describing habit and, in my opinion, abuse patterns. I'm not a psychologist, so don't take that with every grain of salt possible. But like, you were taught this horrible thing. You were taught about this God that is, you would agree with us, is monstrous. You were taught that you're going to hell. You're taught all these horrible things. That is trauma. That is religious trauma. That is abuse. And now you're exhibiting behaviors that are perfectly in line with what you would expect from somebody who grew up that way. You are in need of answers. And the fact that you don't have answers is a major issue for you that is still holding you up. That's what Seth was just talking about. Nobody knows everything. You're not omnipotent. The fact that that's something that's still hanging you up is what you would expect from somebody who spent most of their life being told, no, there is a clear-cut, very simple, black and white answer to the universe, and his name is Jesus. You also are exhibiting the behavior of shaming and punishing yourself for having doubt and questions and uncertainty and not knowing I like the word, shame is an acronym for should have already mastered everything. Every single time you aren't perfect, you feel this pressure, this guilt on you, this millstone around your neck, because you're used to having one book that you can look to for all the answers, and as long as you don't read it too closely. And so like what I'm hearing from you, I've been listening to you for this whole 15-minute call, and it's been amazing to hear the level of honesty coming out of you when you're talking about these things, because you're expressing a habitus of somebody that has been through the exact kind of abuse and trauma that religion provides so lovingly.
Yeah.
And you're expressing the exact kind of thing that we would expect from somebody who is now on their way out of that in the most honest and intellectual way possible, and just expressing their emotions in that way. And that's incredibly powerful. And you left with one question. You said, what if this God really wants me to believe? What if this God is real and wants me to believe this stuff? What if he fucking is? What an asshole to let you go through this. And like, I think, I think, you were talking about hell and how monstrous it is and how monstrous the God of the Bible is and all these things. And like, if this God really is real and really wants you to believe, and the motherfucker can't send you a postcard, like, I know some people who want me to believe and do some things. And if that's the way they're going about it, I'm not into it. And I think you already are so much stronger than this thing that's held you back for so long. And I would leave you with this, Anna, is like, the way I see it, you are in a very uncomfortable place right now.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of going to the gym. You start to lift weight, you get on the treadmill or something like that, and you are fucking uncomfortable. And when you get comfortable being uncomfortable, you become strong. And what I see from you is somebody who's stepping outside their comfort zone for the first time, and you are feeling that you're on the treadmill now, and you're panting and dying and breathing heavy, and your heart's beating like crazy, and you're like, what the fuck is this? I was sitting down comfortably a minute ago, I had my cookies, I was cool. But the thing is, if you keep pressing this button and you keep trying and you keep being uncomfortable, you don't have to do it all at once. Nobody has to do it all at once. But if you keep doing what you're doing right now, I think you're going to get to a point where you're comfortable with that discomfort, and to the point where you don't even notice it anymore. And it just gets easier and easier and easier. And you will become so much happier than you've ever been, because you're finally standing on your own 2 feet, and you're finally free of all these chains and shackles. And you finally you won't even notice the day that you stop praying for your cat, because you just don't need to anymore. And you can have a healthy coping mechanism of worrying and realizing that if you can't fix it, then it isn't worth worrying. And if you can fix it, then it isn't worth worrying. Because at the end of the day, worrying is as useful as trying to solve an algebra problem by chewing bubble gum. And when that sinks in for you and you stop worrying, fucking call me back and tell me how. Because that's it. You're just doing the natural, normal thing. And you can sit here and rationalize it and intellectualize it. But at the end of the day, you're a human being. And the day you stop hating yourself for that is going to be a beautiful day for you, Anna.
Oh my God, I feel like all choked up. Thank you for that. That you both have helped me so much, and I'm incredibly grateful. And everything you just said, that analogy makes perfect sense. I've been there. I went like really, really overweight, and I put myself on a diet, and I went to the gym, and I got fit. And I remember those first days and how hard it was, and thinking, I'm never going to get there. This is ridiculous. Why am I even bothering? And then when I'm like running 5 miles a day and it's not even winded at the end, so that is incredibly helpful. And I also want to thank, I'm very new to the line and to this whole world of questioning things. And the folks in the chat that I just recently discovered have also been so incredibly supportive when I called in, and it's beautiful. And I just want to take a moment and thank them for that. I think you're both
Anna.
right, and I'm in place.
Anna, what's your cat's name?
Oh, my cat's name is Gracie Cat.
Gracie Cat. You give Gracie Cat some scratches and loves for us, okay?
Oh,
And
Oh no!
I
Give them
raised her out of
scratches
the
for everyone but me. Do not scratch your cat for me.
Anna, you're amazing. Keep us in your loop as your journey continues. Okay.
I will.
And
Thank you
please,
both so
please
much.
go back and rewatch this call. Don't actually listen to our dumbasses, but watch the chat and see all the people out there that are sending you love and support. You've got
Lot of love.
a ton of fans here in chat.
Yeah.
So beautiful. I wish I knew them in real life. I wish I could give every one of them a hug. They're such beautiful human beings. It's been enormously helpful. I can't.
Big
Thank
hug
you both.
and thanks for calling.
Have a great night. Bye-bye.
All right.
Take care, Anna. Bye-bye.
It's funny. I just got back from a few days away, and I've got a cat. His name is Cat, and he's we spell it with a K, and he has grafted himself to me. He's my cat, and he's got this thing that he does now where in the middle of the night as I'm sleeping, he will jump up quietly onto the bed. He has to go down on stairs because he has arthritis, but he can still jump up, and he'll quietly jump up and he'll walk right up to my face and he'll stick his face right next to mine. And I'm still dead asleep. And he'll go as loud as he can and scare the shit out of me. And it's terrifying because you got this cat head right here. And anyway, but I am a cat. I'm an animal person. So when she said she had a little Gracie cat, I just and then you talk like what's your problem with cats, Forrest Valkai? What's the matter with you? Not a cat person?
I like things that aren't gross, but like it's a whole, you know. We've got two theists and two atheists on the line. I am demanding that we leave one line open for just one more theist. So if there's one more theist out there that wants to call, go ahead and call. We'll do that. But like, I think that's enough for the rest of the show. What do you think?
My opinion of you has just gone down. Just
in all fairness, if it means anything, I don't have any pets. I don't have cats, dogs, children.
I know this about you.
It's not.
I totally set you up. I know this about you. Yeah, that's just not your thing. But I'm just saying. I'm bringing Cat over to your house, and I'm just gonna like stick him on the table, and he's just gonna look at you and go really loud.
Yeah, and then I'll fucking sanitize the table because it just buried its poop with its hands and then stepped all over the place where I eat. Seth, what the fuck? Why do people do it? I don't know, man.
Is this part of your personal growth? Personal growth. Step out of your comfort zone, you know? By the way, if there is a God, it may be a cat.
And every cat. The thing is, like, as somebody who has been doing biology for like a long time, I love gross shit out there. I love gross shit out there. I have a bunch of wet specimens and dead things all over behind me. I've got skulls all over the top shelf here. You can't see. I've got a bucket of fish heads in my garage at this moment that I'm doing stuff with. I spent a better part of a summer defleshing deer jaws for science in my fucking kitchen. Gross shit's fine. I'm fine with all that. But you let a thing in your house that wipes its ass with its tongue, and then you let it live on your furniture. Why? Why? No. I like science because I can wash my hands when I'm done, you know?
By the way, I've decided that wet specimens and dead things would be a great podcast name. So if the line ever adds anything, you know, Saturday nights, it's wet specimens and dead things, 7:00. Be there. Okay.
I've done some gross shit, and it doesn't bother me one bit. But like indoor pets,
I got you,
and just babies in general, disgusting. Like that's another one I won't do. You know this about me as well. I won't do. Like fucking just where did it get jam, and why is jam all over it? Why just fucking take a shower and get a job, babies? Fucking, I can't do it.
Apparently, we have bypassed the empathy centers in the brain of Forrest.
No.
Okay. Just. All right. I'm good.
I don't like it anymore.
Okay.
We got other people who have been waiting for a long time. Let's talk to Jade, pronoun she, her, calling in all the way from the hypothetical country of Australia. Jade is a spiritualist. That's what it says written here. who says that she feels there's some sort of soul and that ghosts exist as she has seen them with her camera. Jade, you're on the line with Forrest and Seth. How are you doing today?
Hello. We have spoken before.
Okay, cool.
I was the one who called that TikTok, just to jog your memory. But yeah, no, I have seen ghosts. And
Okay.
logically for me, like, if ghosts exist, there must be some sort of soul. So that's kind of like why I believe in a soul, because if there is, if like I have seen what I have seen, which, you know, I fully believe that I have in fact seen these ghosts, then it logically concludes that there must be some sort of way for them to exist, if that makes sense.
I feel like
Can
I
you
get
tell
where
me
you're
about
coming
the?
from.
Oh, forgive me, Jade or Forrest.
Yeah,
Go
you're
ahead.
fine.
I'll shut up. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, you're fine. I was gonna ask about the either or file, because it sounds like it's a little bit of a false dilemma. To say, like, I feel like I get where you're coming from in some way. Like, if there's this ghost, then surely this ghost is what was in the person before, and now it's out of the person, and like it's like a ghost must imply a soul. I can vibe with that a little bit, but I also wonder if that isn't the only option. Like, let's say these ghosts are real. And so, like, what if, like, if there's like a resonant frequency of human energy or whatever, you think, what if it's just that? What if it's some other thing? What if it's like just this echo of a person in some other ethereal? There's like some other plane of existence, and this is just an echo of this person on that plane. Like, I feel like if I pull the same kind of spiritual mumbo jumbo that most other spiritualists pull, I can give you 30 different reasons that ghosts exist that are independent of the idea of a soul. And I don't understand how you're drawing this necessity. I'm willing to entertain it because it isn't really important at all. But like, that's just the first thing that I got hung up on. Seth, what were you saying?
Well, I was interested in the encounter. I mean, what did you see and how did you see it? Just for my information, just because I'm curious.
So how I saw it was, I have a couple of cameras, one of which is somewhere, and I had modified it, so I'd removed the filters, because most cameras have like a UV and IR filter, so I got rid of that because I wanted to get some really cool night photography. And it was after I had done that like I had gone to a couple of these abandoned places and that, you know, taking photos, and well, that's when I saw it. Like, it was there on the screen. I think I still have the photos somewhere. They're probably on one of the 14 hard drives I just have laying around the house that my ADHD brain puts it on. It was very much, there is no other way I could explain it. It was, well, what was a ghost? At least like
on your footage,
on the film,
on the camera, yeah.
Yeah. Why do you think it is that, like, these, because ghosts on camera used to be like a big thing. Like, there was a lot of ghost photography. I used to have some when I was a kid. I believed in ghosts when I was young, and I had some ghost images as a kid. Why do you think these things have gone down in frequency as cameras have gotten better?
That's actually, I never thought about that.
Because it sounds like to me that you had either a glitch on your camera, or depending on whether it's film or digital, you might have had an artifact there somewhere, or you saw something you interpreted.
Double exposure.
Okay, so yeah, it could be. There's a million ways that thing can happen, and there's a million different ways that things like that, like something can happen that kind of looks like that you interpret that way. When you talk about you see these ghosts, are you talking about like what you'd expect, like in a Hollywood movie, like an actual physical person that's just kind of translucent? Or are you talking about an outline, an orb, a sphere, a whatever? Like, what does this ghost look like?
Well, I wish I could send you the photo because that'd probably be easier. But what it looked like was this kind of, I guess, like, if you were to imagine like this glow on this thing, like like a blob of a human. Like if you were to take a human and then just defocus the camera.
Sure.
So,
And so what's more likely? Is it that it's an actual ghost, or is it that it is some other source of light that's reflecting in something that's kind of vaguely person shaped?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
I was saying, what's more likely? Is it that it's actually a ghost, or is it that your camera had one of 1,000 different possible errors, or there's a bunch of different lighting effects, or there's something reflecting off of something else, or any other one of the million different ways in which you can get a human kind of shaped blob on an image?
I'm not. Huh.
Because here's the thing, Jade. We
Like-
have this thing as humans. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
coughing like a crazy person. Sorry. We have this
No,
thing
it's
as
fine.
humans. Two different factors. One is pareidolia and apophenia. And they're these psychological phenomena that basically mean we see patterns where there aren't really patterns, and we're really good at deriving data or deriving meaning from meaningless data. So, like, if you've ever seen a shape in a cloud, the cloud isn't actually that fucking shape, right? You see a thing and it kind of looks like you see faces everywhere you go. Everything looks like a face all the time. Things aren't actually face shaped. Your mind is just good at picking up on this stuff. And so these are things we can actually trace in psychology. It's like the first thing you learn about in psych classes: apophilia and pareidolia, pardon me, apophilia and pareidolia. And so, like, these are things that we know humans do, and they don't mean anything. And so you're looking at this situation where you have not actually a person on the camera, you have a kind of human shaped outline of a light blob, which is to say any kind of snowman shaped light. And like that, to me, isn't a reason to then say, okay, so that means that there is actually something there. And also, I know what that something is. It's a person's spirit. And also, that implies that people have souls, because that's a major leap off of just saying that image looks weird, you know?
Okay. So what I was seeing was an artifact. Is essentially what you're saying.
we don't know what you were seeing.
I don't know, but I'm saying that's a hell of a lot more likely than there being some sort of actual ghost. And so, given the options, I'm gonna think, horses before I think zebras when I hear hoofbeats.
Okay. Yeah, I'd never considered that. I guess like seeing it kind of like freaked me out, especially since I couldn't see it with my own eyes. I was, my eyes were going up and down from camera to, well, where I was photographing, and yeah, I couldn't see it, so
It sounds
That
like you
connection,
got
I
something, and it sounds like you saw a thing and you got stoked about it, and that's fine. We've all done that. It's just, I would encourage you just to, with everything, but especially with something like that, just have a little dose of skepticism there. I remember when I was a kid, this is a true story that's absolutely fucking meaningless, but it's somewhat related. I found a picture. It was we used film cameras back then, but I remember when I was a kid, I found a film camera picture and I saw this horrible hairy foot monster in the picture. It was a picture of like the dirty floor of my brother's bedroom, and there was this creature with like this fucking, it's just this big hairy foot, like this massive hairy ball of hair with like toes coming out of it, and it was freaky as shit. And I remember being a kid and looking at this picture for a long time, trying to figure out what the hell was on this thing. And it was a picture of the back of my own stupid head with my hand in front of my head on the floor. And it looked like a giant hairy foot monster. And I was blown away by, I was like 13. I was losing my fucking mind. And so, like, yeah, dude, we've all been there and we've all done that. I just think you should just approach these things with a little bit more skepticism and ask yourself, if there's another more obvious reasons for this before you jump to ghosts. That's all.
Okay. So you're saying it probably could have been some sort of artifact or something.
Could have been a million things. Could have been a million things. And unless you can rule any of those out and say, no, the only thing left is ghosts, then I wouldn't jump to ghosts.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it had confused me because like also it was like only my fourth or fifth time doing photography with like infrared and UV and whatnot, like removing all the filters that Canon puts on their cameras.
Yep, all the more reason. Anyway, Jade, it's been a pleasure talking to you. We're gonna jump on to our last theist call of the night, it looks like, but I appreciate you calling in and talking to us about this.
No problem. Thank you again. I did say I would call the next day. I just never did. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I genuinely don't remember any of it, so it's okay. You have not offended me in any way. I am extremely stupid.
Yeah, nobody cares, Jade. It's all good, man.
Yeah,
but if you find a ghost, you let us know, okay, brother?
For sure.
Will do. I'll bring it to you in a jar.
Jade's a she. Bye-bye. That's my fault. I hear Jade, and I know Jade. So I have been invited on a ghost hunt. This is true story.
Oh, snap.
There's a skeptics group in Oklahoma, and they reached out and they said, look, we are wanting to do like an overnight thing where you go into a haunted place and we all crash and spend the night there and see what happens. Well, you and I both know that if we are not the only ones there, and there are true believers there, that they're going to be looking around going, did you feel that? The temperature dropped 20 degrees. I can feel it right here in this space. And oh my God, I thought I heard a sound. And so-and-so said a name. My grandmother's middle name sounded like that name, and on all those types of things. And then we're going to be over here going, okay, well, that's what this phenomenon is, and this is what this is, and this is what that is, because we speak that language.
When is lunch?
But I don't think it's going to be like a killjoy kind of a ghost hunt where we just sit around and talk about how full of shit everybody is. I think we're going to take cameras, and I don't know if they're going to have some other tools. I may drag a Ouija board in just for kicks, and we'll try to do it, and try to have a lot of fun with it. And if it turns out to be kind of a romp and it's entertaining at all, I'll post some videos from that. But it's apparently a haunted theater in a smaller town in Oklahoma. So reservations have been made, and a skeptics group going in for the, for a night of maybe paranormal encounters. If I see a ghost, Jade, you have my word. I will bring photographs and other evidence, and we will break bread together and talk about it. Okay, fair enough.
I can't wait for you to tell me accidentally where that is, so I can buy a big white sheet and come.
Dude, I'm thinking of doing the same thing. Yeah, we used to watch this show. It was hosted by Linda Blair. It's called The Scariest Places on Earth, and they would pay a family $10,000 to spend a night in like Dracula's castle or whatever, and they'd be down there and they'd freak themselves out. It's totally understandable. Yeah. Your senses are heightened. You are expecting to see what you are about to see. But I just know there were camera crew people back in the back throwing bricks and shit down the stairs and making all these things happen. We, come on. What's the greater likelihood that there is a rift between the physical and the spiritual, and beings without body come through this membrane and haunt around and give us a tiny, tiny glimpse of themselves before they disappear? I mean, is that the first place we go as rational creatures? And I think that was the point Forrest was trying to make, as probably about 1,000 other much more probable things we should look into first. That's fair. So
there's this one ghost hunter show that was talking about the hotel from like The Shining and whatever else, and which apparently is a real place, and they were doing exactly that. It was this ghost hunter kind of like show where they're going out like, oh my God. And like, there's banging on the walls. Oh my God. And then they show at this one point, like they show like this barn out back, and they like look through the window, and there's all these mattresses in there. And they're like, every time someone dies here in the bed, they put the mattress here. These are all the mattresses where people have died. And these are all the ghosts are here. And this YouTuber went there and interviewed the staff and was like, hey, this is what these people were saying. Does this make any fucking sense? And they're like, no. And at one point they show this barn. They're like, hey, what's going on with the mattresses in the barn? Like, oh, those are the ones that have been pissed in too many times to be salvaged. Those are all the ones that have just been beyond the state of repair. We can't use them anymore. That's where we throw them. And it's like, oh yeah, that makes a lot more sense, doesn't it? And so it's just, there's a lot of people and this is no shade to anybody. Like you and I, we do this shit for a living, and we deal with crazy claims from all different people, and so we might be a little bit more sharp when it comes to things we should maybe give a little more credence to. But I think the one thing that if I could encourage everybody is just like, if you have any belief about anything, come up with 10 other reasons that could be real. You know what I mean? Just sit down. If you can't come up with 5 other reasons why this thing is the way it is, then maybe you can start, but if you can come up with any more than one, you need to start ruling those out first. And don't say that something is supernatural, and don't say that something's a conspiracy, and don't say something's malicious unless you can rule out every way in which it can just be a fucking mistake. And
you know what's funny is those ghost shows, Ghost Adventures. They find the dumbest guys carry out those investigations. I mean, they just find the dumbest people. They just walk in there like, they've got the divining rods and they're running around using gear that I mean, they probably don't realize it's, these are pieces that were found at Radio Shack and JB welded together. I mean, I just think to myself, is this the standard? Is this how science is done? But I love ghost stories. I mean, I've produced 2 audio books of ghost stories. I do a ghost stories podcast every October. So, I mean, knowing it's fantasy, it's like going to a scary movie. I love scary movies. I know it's bullshit, but I mean, we can go and play in the playground of the imagination. And that's how I think this ghost hunt is going to be. We're going to go, we're going to have some fun, but at the same time, we'll leave our skeptics hats on, and we're going to do a little science and come back. But somebody in the chat said, hey, if you do meet a ghost, see if he'll come on the show. Great idea. If I meet a ghost, I'm going to say, look, how's next Sunday? And are you free around 2 or around 7? I'll call some people and we'll have you in. Okay. We got a green room. There's refreshments, and I'll bring the ghost out for you. That's a great suggestion. Thank you for that.
Did anybody? The last thing I'll say, and then I swear we'll move up. But like, did you see that I cannot remember where the hell it was, but there was this clip from these guys that were like exposing psychics and stuff. Like it was kind of a James Randi type show, and they made a website. They picked a random ass street somewhere in London or something. I forgot where it was, but they found this random ass road, and they made a website about like the hauntings of this road. And they're like, there's John Taylor was run over by a carriage here and haunts the place ever since. And they just made a bunch of shit up, put it online, and then hired a psychic. And we're like, can you come tell us about the ghosts here? And they got the whole thing on camera, and this psychic walks down this road like, I feel the name Taylor. Oh, he was killed by a carriage here. It's like, the motherfucker used Google and then came here waving his hands around, and that's their job. And it's like, awesome. If anybody can find that clip and send it to me, please. It's so fucking funny. And it's like, that's all they do. It's all just
that's
awesome.
Shit. That's awesome.
But it's a $1 million industry, yo. Anyway, I'm going to move on to our last theist caller of the night that we've got. And then we have 2 atheist callers, and then we'll wrap up our show. Last theist caller of the night is Tim, pronouns he, him, calling in all the way from Creaking Aardvarks, who says that biblical numerology demonstrates the Bible's truth. So many first of alls. I got so many problems with that. Tim, you're on the line with Forrest and Seth. How you doing?
I'm fine. How are you guys?
Never had a bad day, man.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so you got problems right off the bat with numerology, or biblical numerology, or both?
Yes. I have a problem with numerology because it's pseudoscience. I have a problem with the Bible. I have a problem with the Bible being true. A lot of things there.
Right. So would you say that there is an unseen world, though, that there are unseen realities? I
don't. So, like, I would answer that question yes, because we only have access to a small part of the spectrum of electromagnetic radiation. But, like, I don't think that's what you mean.
Right. It's not. I mean, like, the laws of logic.
Okay.
So would you say that the laws of logic are truth and an unseen reality?
No.
Okay, you're just going to say no, that the laws of logic don't exist?
That's not what I said. You asked me if they are the
There you go.
unseen reality, and I said no.
Right.
Of course, laws of logic exist. They are made by us because they make sense. They are not any kind of like a different plane of existence.
Yeah. So I think that the unseen world bears the fingerprints of God, like the laws of logic. There are three fundamental laws of logic, and I think that that is one of the immutable properties of our universe. Okay, and I think that it's the fingerprint of God, and that's just one of them. There are three immutable properties of truth.
I mean, I appreciate you starting off that sentence with the word "I think," because that's really all that is. Is just this is your idea of it. Demonstrate to me, please. We need to know: is God real? If God is real, then did it use these laws of logic as its fingerprints, or is that just a natural part of the universe, or whatever? Like, we need to get into the philosophy of logic and all this stuff, and that doesn't really do anything for me because I'm not a philosophy face. And so, like, for me, man, I just would rather know why you think that numerology demonstrates the Bible's truth, and like why the Bible being true is a good thing or an important thing. Like, that's kind of where I'd go with it. But that's just me. I'm just here. I don't know what I'm doing anymore.
Well, if the Bible is true and inspired by God, if it is what it claims to be, it's very important, right? So, and if it's not, that's really important too. So, okay,
so,
let me try and lay down.
Even if the Bible is true and this God is real, I'm not worshiping it. So, like, I'd like to know why you believe it, but it's not going to do a whole lot for me personally.
Okay, well, so let me lay down the tracks so you can follow my train of thought when it concerns to biblical numerology, because in the Bible, numbers have meaning. Like, for instance, God created man on the sixth day, and so 6 is the number of man. Have you heard of that before?
So when you say numbers have meaning, what does that mean,
yes.
And how do you know that?
Well, if the Bible is true, God uses numbers to reveal certain truths, like the number of the beast. You've heard of this number, 666?
So 3 dudes?
3 dudes. Well, so it has.
You said 6 is the number of man.
Written 2,000 years. Yeah, it was written 2,000 years ago. That the number of the beast was 666, and I think back then the readers understood the number of the beast to identify Caesar Nero, and then also the Roman Empire.
Is that 111 men, or is it 3 men standing next to each other?
111? No. You're trying to make fun of my point here and what I'm trying to get
I'm
to.
not at all. I'm actually asking questions, and the fact that you think that it's me making fun of you is telling.
Okay. Well, then I apologize. So the number of the beast is 666. Back then it stood for the Roman Empire. The first 6 numbers of the Roman numeral system add up to 666. And I told you I had to lay down some tracks so you could follow my train of thought. Okay? So this number 666 has some interesting qualities to it. None of the other numbers have this particular quality. For instance, you can add, if you add 1, 2, 3 all the way through the number 36, you get the number 666. Okay, so numbers mean things in the Bible. And certain numbers
wait, hold on. Now I am making fun of you a little bit. What does that mean? Why 36? Why did you pick that arbitrarily? 36 is the one that if you add all the numbers up to that, you get that number. Because you can add any numbers of any numbers and get different numbers. That's how adding works. So, like,
yeah, I'm sorry.
Why did we pick 36?
Yeah, 36. If you add all the numbers from 1 to 36, it adds up to 666. So none of the other numbers that I know about does that. So it's a curious point, and in my opinion, do
you understand? Do you understand, Tim? You said 1 through 36, right?
Uh-huh.
Right. Why stop at 36? Because if you add up all the numbers from 1 through 37, you get a different number. And there's no other number that does that. And if you pick all the numbers between 1 and any number, you get a number. And there's no other numbers that do that. Like, why are you picking that arbitrarily as if it means anything?
It's a significant number in the Bible, Forrest.
Right. Okay. But why'd you pick 36 as a thing? Numbers are divisible by stuff. You can get to numbers by different means. That's true of anything.
Okay, I'll answer that. There's no other number that I'm aware of that when you add up the numbers 1 through 36, that it adds up to 666. And I'm just pointing out
that today is the silliest thing that anyone has said on this show. There's no other number that you can think of that when you add all of the numbers between 1 to 36 together come to 606. Yeah, that's because that's just what addition is. That's you're just picking an arbitrary fact about a number. Every number is divisible by stuff. Every number can be manipulated in all sorts of different ways. You just picked one that you liked because it has some historical context that you've decided upon. I don't care about any of it, man. We can be here for 45 minutes. You tell me all the different numbers in the Bible. They don't mean shit to me. I want to know why, like, this actually matters in a significant way.
I'm actually getting to the bridge to my point. You've interrupted me a few times, so it's been a little difficult. So
you haven't said anything
number 1776. You know the number 1776 for us?
I know it's a number. I know all sorts of numbers. I know all of the numbers.
It's also a significant date. Okay? So
cool. 1775 was too. What are we doing?
Both the Illuminati and the United States was founded during that year.
For fuck's sake. You know now we get into the Illuminati.
Well, okay. Well, if you're going to make a joke about this, well then, I'll, talk about something else. But
Tim,
no, I don't think so. I think I'm good.
So you still haven't listen.
There are numbers, and you can manipulate them, and you can arbitrarily choose them, and there's a coincidental overlap over here, and that proves what? Let's say that there was a deity who had assembled a Bible where all of these numbers correlated, and it was supposed to mean something. Well, it wasn't supposed to mean enough that anybody would really catch it. It's obviously buried, it's hidden, it's encoded, but the idea that Tim would need to call and tell us that he has sort of mined for this and discovered it and it proves the Bible wouldn't be a demonstration that there was a benevolent God who wrote the Bible, because the Bible essentially was turning it all into a Rubik's Cube that very few, if anyone, could ever figure out. I find all of this unimpressive. It's pattern seeking. It's agency creating. I myself wish you the best, Tim, but I honestly don't know anybody in the chat want to continue talking to Tim. Sorry.
that's kind of where and while the chat is answering your question, that's kind of exactly the way I feel. Like, if this is true, if I believe what Tim is saying here, and that there's
what I wanted to say.
Yeah, hold on, Tim.
It doesn't matter.
If we believe you, it just doesn't. And I know you care super bad about this, but it super doesn't matter. If we believe what you're saying, we're like, okay, now I understand. Yes, XYZ thing, the number 69 and 420 are real, and that means the Bible is true. Cool. We all believe in the Bible now. What kind of asshole of a God made the Bible this way? And also, why did the God of the Bible take the time to encode all these numbers in it, but didn't take the time to be like, hey, don't have fucking slaves? What's that about, Tim? It's even if we believe what you're saying, which we super don't, it doesn't compel us to believe this God is useful or worth worshiping or anything. Do you want to skip to the very point? Because the chat's not on your side. We're not on your side. Do you have a point you want to get to?
You're not on my side. Okay, so can I finish my point then about the 1776?
No, I don't care about 1776. I don't.
Good.
Yeah, I don't care about the Illuminati. I just want to hear what's the end,
Lord,
the last thing. The last thing you were going to say, the very, very end, the conclusion. What is it?
Sure. Here it is. The Illuminati was founded in 1776.
And you're just right back to 1776. All right, Tim. You're right back to the same thing. You cannot break script to save your life. I'm bored of it. And it's man, you've been waiting for an hour, dude. And this, you can't even just fucking get to the end. Just the point.
Is Tim? Tim, how often do you call these shows? I'm just curious. I'm only here every once
It's
in
a
a while.
lot.
I've called 4 times.
It's a lot.
4 times in the
Yeah,
last
I've called
how
4
long?
times.
How long's it been?
I called last week.
Last week. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
so
thanks for calling, Tim. I appreciate you very
Yeah, no,
much.
that's
Have a good day.
I see the call from last week is where you said that you believe that atheism is self-terminating and that Christianity promotes life and liberty is what I've got on the call for last week.
Yeah. Can I go there? Because I can demonstrate
No.
that atheism is self-terminating.
I'm curious to know how does Christianity promote life and liberty for women and LGBT people, Tim?
Well, it promotes as much liberty as they can have anywhere on planet Earth today, because
That's
America was based on a. You know what? You guys can't let me talk.
Bye, Tim. Yeah, Tim calls a lot, and like it's never good. And like I hate to be a jerk, I really do, but like, dude, you can't just skip to the point. Like,
I don't know why he gets
yes,
back
you can
on.
manipulate numbers.
I'm not sure I get that. Is there a flag or something you can put on it? Because essentially it's like number salad, and everybody in the freaking viewing audience is drifting going, what the fuck is wrong with
women and LGBT people? Sorry,
we are here.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. We are here essentially to serve the callers, but more than that, I want to make sure we're serving the audience, and Tim is drifting off into the Illuminati, and I was like, I'm good. I think I'm good.
Yeah,
Tim,
it's just not worth the time.
May
and
the
like
Lord bless you
thing is,
and keep you, and make his face to shine upon you.
Women and LGBT people have as many rights as they could anywhere in the world under Christianity. That's why the Bible says that women should be subservient and not speak or hold any kind of authority and should be submissive to men. That's why it says that gay people should be stoned to death. That's why so many Christian nationalists right now are so staunchly anti-trans. It's because of all the rights that they get under Christianity. If you can't even grapple with the fact that your own religion is fucking a hindrance for social progress, I can't take you seriously. And especially not going to take you seriously when you fucking bring up the Illuminati. Like, come on, man. The Illuminati, because 1776, I can't think of a single other number that if you add 1775 plus 1, it comes to 1776. I can't think of any other number that does that. That means that it's really important. Like, good gravy, dude. That numerology, it pisses me off a little bit because it is the definition of confirmation bias. Numerology is just what that looks like. I can do math poorly, and that means I know the past, present, and future, and this ethereal other reality. Like, that's it. I can't do it, dude. We got 2 calls left, and then Seth and I are going to go away. We'll start with Matt, pronouns he, him, calling in from the frozen, barren wastelands of Canada, who's an atheist who wants to ask me a personal question about some philosophy that I hold. Matt, you're on the line. You've been on hold for a long time. How are you doing today?
Hey, pretty good. How about you, Forrest?
Never had a bad day.
That's good to hear. I kind of expected that. But so yeah, just to get right to it so that I'm not wasting your time. In a previous video, I saw you talking about nihilism, or your smileism as it was. And you brought up, I think it was either obscurism or abstractism. I can't remember what you called it. And I've just been trying to look more in absurdism. Okay. So, and I've been trying to look more into that because when I heard that, I was like, oh, that really resonates. So I was just wondering if you had any resources or any info or anything like that on it, or explanations.
I mean, I can tell you what it means to me, but I'm not a philosopher, and so like I'm no more useful than Google in this scenario.
That's
I can
fair.
tell you my personal opinion. Is that what you wanted?
Yeah, sure. I mean, anything is fine.
So absurdism, as far as I understand it, is a branch of so there's nihilism, that nothing matters, and that is grossly reductive. What I just said. There's lots of branches of nihilism, but you get the nothing matters. And there's no meaning to anything. And then you get to existentialism, which is, I'm going to derive my own meaning and make my own whatever. And then absurdism is that it's kind of funny. It's kind of ridiculous. Not necessarily literally funny, but like it is ridiculous that there is no meaning to anything and that nothing matters in any way. And here we are suffering and living and loving and laughing and all this stuff. And that contradiction between the deep meaning that we find in our life and the vast, cold, hard shackles of reality that we live under is pretty fucking silly. And so you might as well smile at it. And that's absurdism as far as I understand it. Again, can't stress enough, I'm not a philosophace, nor should I be taken seriously as one, because I just don't know anything about anything. I'm very stupid. So that's what I can give you. But like, if you find a better resource for it, cool.
Okay. Well, thanks very much. That's literally the only reason I called in.
Okay.
Thank you,
All
Matt.
right, man. Have an awesome rest of your day.
Yeah,
Take
have a
care,
good one. You too, Seth. Sorry I didn't get to talk to you.
No, not at all. It's good to hear you guys chat. Take care.
Later.
I have somewhere.
The man lives without meaning. He is a nihilist. No joy, no purpose, no God. He is Forrest Valkai.
Dun, dun, dun.
What are you looking for? What is it that you have retrieved from your little wall of...
My undergrad philosophy textbook from when I took philosophy class, because it was necessary for an arts degree. Because my first degree was in education, and so I had to take philosophy. And I'm seeing if I can just look up really quickly in here. The book is called Questions That Matter, and it's really funny because as a nihilist, I don't think they do. Not in a fundamental way, anyway. Is there anything in here? Absolutism, abstraction, absolute skepticism,
You're going to read the entire philosophy test book on a live broadcast here? Because I'm going to go get my
and you're going to
coffee.
fucking sit here and watch. I've got nothing in here about it. And this was like my go-to if I was going to dig into... I have not opened this book in a very long time. Yeah, I don't think I even have anything in here about nihilism. Oh, there it is, 327. Let me see if there's anything meaningful that I can pull out of this. I could use Google, but I like books. 327. Nihilism.
I don't know if you knew this, but we do have a caller still on the line. Just in case you didn't know.
Thank you. Thank you. This man is going to drift us into oblivion. He is on... he's got a 500-page textbook in his hand.
I was going to pull out... There's some really good shit in this section that I thought it might be useful for the show. But like, oh, no, I guess we'll just keep being dicks to callers rather than having real serious conversations about the nature of life and love and morality. That's what the show is. It's fine. I'll read this later by myself, and you assholes don't get to watch. We've got Alex, pronouns he, him, calling in from isolated nudibranchs, talking about sea slugs all on their own. Somebody go help them, unless they want to be that way. And it's a non-theist is what it says, is a former Trump supporter who wants to talk about his continued opposition to abortion. I'm happy you're not a Trump supporter anymore, at least. Hi, Alex. You're on the show with Forrest and Seth. How you doing?
Hi, I'm doing all right. I'm not going to also ask how you're doing because you've answered that a couple of times.
I'm having a terrible day. I'm also a liar.
Yeah, I'm an undergraduate physics student, so I kind of figure, like, I don't have much biology background aside from the intro level stuff. I was a Trump supporter around until like 2022, and I haven't, like, most of my opinions have changed since then, but abortion's like one of those things that I haven't really looked at too heavily, mostly because it feels like, to be entirely blunt, it's mostly an ick feeling trying to address it, and I figured a biologist would probably be it'd probably be good to talk to a biologist rather than just a political commentator about it, to ask questions and see what your opinions are.
I'll be honest with you. I'm happy to talk about it from a biologist standpoint, but my opinions, my biological framework for about abortion and all this thing are completely irrelevant to the conversation. Like 110%.
Okay.
So I'm happy to do it, but it's not going to get us anywhere.
Yeah, fair enough. Considering it's like philosophy and value judgment.
Rather than prefacing the question, I'm curious. Can you just ask me the question? Ask us. I mean, tell us. Throw it out there.
Yeah.
Well, Well, would you say there's a gestation time where abortion becomes immoral, or is it kind of at any point? It's why would that be, in your opinion?
Because at the end of the day, my stance on abortion is about bodily autonomy, and nobody has the right to use somebody else's body without their consent. And when we're talking about the late term abortions that Republicans and conservatives and the like enjoy pointing to as this boogeyman for, oh, they're going to be killing all these innocent babies right before they're born. We're talking about very rare, very serious scenarios where people have already picked out names and bought baby furniture and are deeply wanting this child. And then something horrible happens. They get some news about some life-threatening issue and they have no other choice than to terminate that pregnancy. And I would rather not use their suffering as a political football to try to argue whether or not somebody with a uterus has the right to decide who lives inside their body. At the end of the day, like I said, I can sit here and go through the biology of all of it. We can talk about development. We can talk about brains. We can talk about when life starts and when personhood starts, philosophy, biology, you name it. We can talk about all of it. None of it is relevant to whether or not someone has the right to decide what happens to their own body. And no matter who it is, even if it results in the death of somebody else, you would never tell anybody else that they have to use their body to sustain another person's life at grave risk to their own mental and physical well-being, or at all. It is only in this particular scenario that if you have a uterus, there is a circumstance in which you no longer have control over your own personhood, and that's ridiculous.
I'm sorry. I'm just trying to process everything you're saying before I respond.
Sure.
I'm kind of wondering, is there a particular reason to do abortion rather than attempting early delivery if it's past the point of viability, or is it? I'm
not a doctor,
I'm
so
sorry.
no. But
Are you saying that early deliveries are? I mean, hell, I was a premature kid. What do you mean early? A lot of children are delivered early in an attempt to try to salvage the pregnancy and save the life. So you're speaking as if this is not done?
Well, I'm just coming at it from in cases where you're doing abortion after viability. I'm just not sure.
Look, if you understand
the reason
that even Roe versus Wade became increasingly restrictive, for lack of a better word, as far as the letter of the law is concerned, for that reason. And Forrest is absolutely right. If someone terminates a pregnancy early, that's one thing. But if there is a pregnancy that is terminated in the third trimester, whatever, we're obviously talking about someone who was had planned for a child and was wanting a child and was devastated that the pregnancy was terminated, that the baby miscarried or whatever. That the child it was not going to survive. And so, this was about eliminating suffering or any number of reasons. So are you asking us if it becomes immoral at a certain gestation period? Is that what the question is?
Like if you're in a case where it's past the point where some qualification occurs, like, say, consciousness, capacity for pain. Like, if there's anything like that would affect how ethical it is.
If it is safer for the life of the pregnant person to have an abortion, then they should do that thing. That's the ethical line, is what is safer for the life of the pregnant person and what is their choice to do with their body on their terms because they are a person who has ownership of their own body. That's the ethical line.
There's a great article you should check out. It was written, it was co-written by the late astronomer Carl Sagan and his wife Ann Druyan. It was called "Abortion: Is It Possible to Be Both Pro-Life and Pro-Choice?" And they, like Christopher Hitchens, and a lot of other people have navigated the very complex questions of life and consciousness and personhood, etc. I stand with Forrest. I think it all really comes down to bodily autonomy and the life and the rights of the mother or the soon-to-be mother. But I think it's okay to navigate conversations like these, to ask ourselves, to make sure we're doing the right thinking the right and moral thing. And I think this article was actually relatively fairly written. So if you're interested, look it up. Abortion, is it possible to be both pro-life, and these are in quotes, and pro-choice? Carl Sagan and Andrewian. Give it a read. Maybe it'll help you on your journey, okay?
I also like.
Yep, I pulled it up.
The big thing for me is like, what's the alternative here? Is you are forcing someone to remain pregnant. If you're taking away this right at any point for any reason, my question to you, Alex, is what right do you have to force someone to remain pregnant against their will?
So that's part of why I'm asking about early delivery, because like I agree forcing someone to remain pregnant is definitely unethical. I'm just
well then
unsure
move it to that. If you want to move the goalpost to that thing, what right do you have, Alex, to force someone to give birth?
I'm going to be honest. I'm going to need to think about that response to that. That response to what I said, because I'll need to take more time to think about it.
That's the correct approach, right? Well, let me think about that. Let me stew on it. Let me test that. That's an opinion or perspective I hadn't heard yet. I'm gonna take my time with it, right? This is a hot button. Nerves are so sensitive on this subject, and most everybody's screaming at each other. I find it refreshing if someone says, you know what? I hadn't heard that one before. Let me chew on it for a while. I think that's actually a good thing. I think that's a net positive.
By the way, the essay that Seth talked about, for anybody who likes books, it's in Billions and Billions. I thought I recognized that title. And yeah, Billions and Billions by Carl Sagan. It's a pretty tight book, left and right, but like it's got that one essay in there. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, I've honestly kind of avoided thinking about it for a long time, largely because it's a difficult topic, to be entirely honest. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate kind of humoring my kind of out there like thoughts on it.
I remember even Christopher Hitchens once said publicly that he was somewhat squeamish at the topic, and I think it's because people are afraid, like the consequences of getting it wrong. Right, especially if we've been brought up in a culture where people have been sharing this sort of horror fiction about the Donald Trump stories about, well, after the baby was born, it was aborted because the mustache twirling villain doctor decided it would be killed. And I think this conditions a lot of people to be terrified. We were terrified to even tiptoe around the subject. But without discussion, I don't think we come to the best ideas. So, check the article out, listen to what Forrest said, chew on it, think on it, stew on it. And hopefully, I think at the end of the day, I think it's really about bodily autonomy and the rights of women. I think it comes down to no one else should be able to tell you that you have to be or remain pregnant or become a mother. I just don't think that's moral. Okay?
For sure.
Okay.
Hey, call us back sometime, Alex, when you think about it a little bit further. Most definitely. Take care.
Thank you.
I would read the article here. Sometimes I'll pull an article up and I'll just read, if it's going to be a couple minutes, but it's pretty lengthy, the Sagan article. So I'll let you guys look it up on your own. Yeah.
It's dense. It also is Sagan, and so it's got a lot to think about. I think the best thing about that call, there's a lot going on there, but I think the best thing is that it was three dudes talking about it. I think that's what's really important. We have these conversations about abortion. I think the most important thing is that we maintain that it's just a bunch of cis het white men sitting here and discussing.
I reject that. Look, I get it. I this idea though that we as advocates, because we are male, shouldn't be a part of the conversation, shouldn't be promoting ideas, shouldn't be discussing. I don't disqualify people based on their color or their gender or any of those.
I don't think we should be disqualified. I just think it's very funny that's the optics.
It is ironic. Yeah, it is a bit ironic. But at the same time, I mean, I'm glad somebody was here to actually receive the call and have the conversation. And I think we stand, I don't have to be a person of color to be able to speak about the rights of all human beings, regardless of their color. I don't have to be a marginalized group or a specific demographic to be able to engage. I may not be able to speak from their perspective as an authority, but I certainly can as an advocate. And do I wish we had had a female on the call to be able to talk about it? Yes, I do. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you did okay, Forrest. I thought, you represented. You did well.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I want to give a shout out to the person in the chat who just said 3 dudes talking about abortion. 6 is the number of man. It's 666. That's what it is.
I didn't have to use the help me post-it note on that last call, which is really refreshing because it has gotten a workout over the broadcast today. But.
It's been a show. It's been a weird show. With that, we got first of all, thank you to Arden for producing tonight. Thank you to I believe it was Stephanie Helms, who was our call screener. Thank you to all of our mods in chat. Thank you to Via Halo, who does the timestamps, and trying to remember to shout them out as often as I can because I keep seeing them all the day. They're there instantly, and that's crazy cool. I don't think they get paid. They should. Everybody, hashtag pay Via Halo and pressure Jimmy Snow to put them on payroll. And more than anything, thank you to Seth for bringing the A game today and leading the show, knowing that if this wasn't the absolute best show that anybody's ever seen, it would be an insult to all of our viewers and all of our channel members and all of our patrons on Patreon. That's why we have you here.
Yeah, well, I'm honored. I'm honored. And if you enjoyed Forrest's performance tonight, just send a thank you email to forresthatescats@gmail.com. And I'm sure he'll be happy to respond to you forthwith. So, yeah. No, it's always fun hanging out with you, brother. It's always a good time. Even when the calls are kind of wonky, we're able to have some fun with most of them. And, of course, the chatters are wonderful and supportive in their family. And so, no, it's good to be here, and I appreciate the invite. I hope we get a chance to do it again, okay?
Most definitely. Oh, and to anybody wondering, I've been recording Sex and Sensibility. It's the first time I've ever had to take several days to record one video. Literally, like, over 12 hours in the studio. It's coming along. I'm trying my best to get it done by the end of this month and maybe early February, but it's coming out. It is happening. I know you guys want it. I know I want it. So stay tuned for that, because it's happening.